This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com. The only place to be in your pop culture world.
Come on. We call it the place to be. The place to be, yes. It's the place to be. Then I shall be.
It is contagious. It is the place to be, and we are live each and every Monday.
Do you actually need a camera out, or is it like part of the program?
Yeah, I like big hits myself.
Do you listen at all when I speak on the show?
I'm not the one who thrives on whining about carriages that are 3 inches from my fucking car.
So if it's too much for you and your big talk of the walk Knights of Columbus backpack.
When does it end, JR?
Carry it back to the fucking thing. Then what do you want? What do you want?
When does it end?
You're making the poor guy making minimum wage while you're sitting there with our Mento going to the coffers. Party people in the place to be.
5 years. 5 years! We've been doing podcasts. And we have this. This is trash.
It's not Austin in LA. It's not Cabana in Chicago. It's not Conrad down in Alabama. Place to Be Nation presents Scott Criscolo and JT Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
To do worse than Josh Richard.
SummerSlam, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and the World Wrestling Federation champion, Hulk Hogan.
You know something, Mean Gene? Ever since me and the Barber hooked up, we've been hanging and banging, brother. And we also been riding our Harley Davidsons through a lot of heavy traffic, dude. But on the way to the Meadowlands today, when we hit the George Washington Bridge, it was at a standstill. So me and the Barber, we just looked at each other, brother, and we decided to head for the water, brother. We headed for the Henry Hudson River, and just like Moses parted the Red Sea, that's exactly what happened when the pythons started heading for the river. And once we crossed the river, Mean Gene, everybody on Interstate 95 pulled off to the side. All the Hulkamaniacs with the stares in their eyes, with their jaws hanging, with the dumbfounded looks, couldn't believe the largest arms in the world hanging on to a pair of ape hangers, ready to do battle. They couldn't believe the gleam in the Barber's eyes. And we know why, don't we, Brutus? You know me, Gene. These are titanium steel blades. They will cut through absolutely anything. You know, I love the blades, Gene. The blades are part of me. Now, Madness, listen up, because I'm going to make them part of you.
I can't believe that, Hulk Hogan.
You better believe it, Mean Gene. Yeah. But the thing that all those Hulkamaniacs that were stopped on the side of the road couldn't believe was the package I had riding on the back of my fender, brother. With those long, sexy, curvaceous legs that wrapped around me, with the arms that hung onto my waist for dear life, with a set of headlights that were pointed straight ahead, brothers, and the smile across the secret weapon's face, just like an acre of sunshine. Satisfaction guaranteed. We're gonna take it to him, brother. We're gonna wipe out the Macho Man. We're gonna destroy ZEUS, and then we're gonna get Scary Sherry and put her in her place. What are you dudes gonna do when the Barber, the Blade, and Hulkamania run wild on you?
Get ready for the big main event here at SummerSlam. Wow.
I'm your vehicle, baby. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. By now I'm sure you know that I love you, I need you. I want you, got to have it shine. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. Oh, you know I do.
Away we go! Publicly stated that, damn it, who put that up? Is that $200 an hour?
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to the great episode of the one and only Place to Be Podcast. I am your host, Justin Rosero, coming to you live here on this Monday evening. And we here inside the PTB studios are feeling the heat tonight. And I'm feeling the heat over the weekend with my birthday boy, PIC, Mr. Scott Criscolo. Scott, how are you?
Good evening, JR. Good evening, Place to Be Nation. Welcome to episode 523 of the longest-running episodic motherfucking gold standard. On the 6th birthday this weekend of PlaceToBeNation.com, besides my birthday, of course. Happy birthday to Place to Be Nation. 6 years old on Saturday. Who'd have thunk it, huh? 6 years. It's a long time. No.
Quite the run. Almost as much
It
as
is.
your 46 years.
Yes, exactly.
But no, we did have a good birthday weekend. But we'll talk about that in a minute with our guest, because he was part of it too.
Yes, he was.
It is pay-per-view night, and joining us as always is a veteran. He was around before Place to Be Nation's first birthday or original birth, June 13th. He's been around since the beginning in 2011. You've heard him many, many times across shows here at PlaceToBeNation.com. Mr. One and Only Johnny Boy D'Amato. John, how are you?
Good evening. Yes, the elder misstatesman is in the house. Happy birthday, PIC, and happy birthday,
Thank you.
PTB. And yes, another lovely weekend. I never thought I would say that I had the 3 weekends in Connecticut in a row, and they were all very entertaining and lovely. So.
Unlikely streak.
But I'm not going to push it, and it won't be 4. That's for sure.
No.
We are on we were mentioning it though Saturday. We're on a hot streak for live wrestling this year. So we went to TakeOver New York. Went to the G1 show in MSG for ROH in New Japan, WrestleMania, and then Money in the Bank. John, you and I were at, which was an awesome show, and then TakeOver 25 this past Saturday. So again, quite the run we are on. And Scott, so Saturday was your birthday. It was the birthday for PlaceToBeNation.com. We went to Bridgeport for TakeOver, and then went to Hooters to celebrate your birthday. It was an interesting trip. The service was both spectacular and disappointing all at once somehow. But,
I know.
It was a great time hanging out with the crew, getting to see everyone, and really just kind of shooting the shit. It was a good time.
Yes. No, it was good to see you. Always a pleasure to see you, Mr. Machado. Did you do a roaming Jeff Learns Wrestling on the way home on the road?
So we had planned on it, and then being that we ended up getting on the road much later than I had thought, we were both kind of just gassed from the night, and we just kind of bullshitted and put music on. It just felt like a lot at that point to try and think and record. But my hope is that we could do a Jeff Learns Wrestling soon, a normal one, and then we'll just kind of talk about his experience to open the show.
Excellent.
But he did have a good time. Fell in love with Yo Shirai. So he was heartbroken when she lost, but he really enjoyed the show. He had some. I was proud of him actually, because he had some critical points about the main event and the way it played out. So it was good to see him kind of starting to think a little bit like a smarter fan and critiquing things. So that was cool. But no, he had a great time just hanging out. I said that him and D'Amato bonded, so that was a good time down at the end of the table. Had a good conversation, John.
Definitely.
Yep, that was a good time. A good time had by all. And so I thank you guys very much. It was a wonderful day Saturday. I appreciate it very much. And the Place to Be Nation is continuing to crank as well. We'll talk more about Place to Be Nation later on in the program. And for my birthday, we're going to tonight, perfect timing as my birthday weekend ends, we are talking about arguably one of my favorite shows of all time tonight as we are on the road, continue the road through 1989. And I didn't think I'd say this, JR, but for the second time in a few weeks, we're back at the Meadowlands. We thought this would be a special trip. We were here a couple months earlier in May. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. As JR mentioned, we are feeling the heat of SummerSlam. We're at the big show, August 28th, 1989, from the Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey. What a show. I won't talk about it as the evening moves on, but still easily one of my favorite shows of all time. It had everything. Stories, good matches, great characters, great promos, great moments. Just everything about this show was perfect to me. Even the announcing, which many people think sucked, actually had its own special charm. And we'll get to that too. Obviously, no house shows by the WWF because they were all at the Meadowlands. Second time this year, big show in Jersey. However, we, of course, as we always do, we try and see what the competition's doing on the evening of pay-per-views. So let's go and see what's going on in Crockett Land. And coincidentally, they were also in the Northeast, believe it or not. Over the weekend, that evening, August 28th, 1989, they were doing a TV taping at the Georgia Mountains Center in Gainesville, Georgia. Of course, a current WWE superstar is from Gainesville, Georgia. But over the weekend, guys, they were actually close. That Saturday night, the 26th, they were at the Civic Center in Philadelphia, which is kind of the NWA's building when they go there. Of course, the WWF go to the Spectrum. And the Philadelphia Civic Center is where NWA/WCW went when they went to Philly. Of course, they would do future pay-per-views there. And I don't remember this. I don't think I went to this show. Maybe my brother did, but I definitely do not remember. But the next night, Sunday, August 27th, the NWA was at the New Haven Coliseum. That's unprecedented. I never remember that. And of course, I wish I was there because this main event would have been all me. Here's your card, quick, before we move on. Some guy named Rose pinned Al Green. Thanks, Graham Cawthon, for not giving us who the first name is. Buddy.
Johnny.
Norman, meaning Norman the Lunatic, pinned Phil Apollo.
Probably Randy Rose.
Randy Rose.
Yeah.
Probably
Randy Rose.
The fake Midnight Express dude.
Fake Midnight Express.
Rusty Rhodes.
Rusty Rhodes. Bill Irwin, Wild Bill Irwin, pinned Right Ranger Ross. Sid Vicious and Dan Spivey, of course, the Skyscrapers, defeated Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane. Brian Pillman pinned Norman, so I guess Norman the Lunatic fought twice. Sting defeated the Great Muta by disqualification. Rick and Scott Steiner defeated the NWA Tag Team Champions, which was Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin, via disqualification. The U.S. Champion, Lex Luger, pinned Tommy Rich. Your World Champion, of course, Nature Boy Ric Flair, pinned Terry Funk. And in the main event, I wish I was at this fucking show, the Road Warriors and the Samoan SWAT team in a cage. Wow. Fuck, I should have been at that show. Damn it. Oh, what a card.
You can really see like the roster we know of this era coming to. We talk about it a lot with WWF, like late 80 and 89. You kind of see the roster we grew up with, or at least my generation. And you kind of see this now in Crockett as well, such WCW. You're seeing it filter in here too, like a bunch of the names you mentioned. Like, okay, now we're starting to get to the crop we would come to know coming through. Were you surprised, by the way, we got like 2 Jersey pay-per-views in '89? It's kind of surprising.
A little bit, actually. I would have figured maybe they would have gone to just to kind of switch things. I'm sure staying East Coast, I don't know what you think, John. I think staying East Coast was obviously smart, but I would have figured maybe the Spectrum. Obviously, they wouldn't have gone back to the Garden, but maybe the Spectrum or even Boston. We've talked about this before, how like they didn't do a pay-per-view in Boston until 1993. That's just bizarre, All those great house shows on Nesson and everything, and they didn't go to Boston for a pay-per-view until 1993, which I find very strange. What do you think, John?
They were still sticking to what they're comfortable with. The Brendan Byrne, they had got good crowds there, so they're sticking with. And also, they're also sticking with the format the last Monday of the summer, which they would stay with until the mid '90s. I think like '95. That last Monday of the summer. So it's kind of like what we talked about this weekend. The McMahons, they want to be pretty much close to home. It's still, kids are getting ready to go back to school, and basically you could do the show. I was in your bed. Basically, 30 years later, what they probably went through this weekend.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, SummerSlam '94 is the last Monday SummerSlam. So yep. They hold on to that for a while, which is an odd choice. I always thought it was definitely weird. It seemed to work out. Like I remember definitely for '94, I think I started high school like the next day. So that Monday, it couldn't have been Labor Day. They wouldn't have had SummerSlam, right? So I guess I must have went back the week before. So I guess I don't know for whatever reason we started on a Tuesday.
A lot of schools started going. They started going earlier that last week of August, but usually this is it's a real good spot because it's like the school doesn't start till after Labor Day, and it's the last Monday of summer where kids are home from camp and stuff like that. So they need something popping and kind of like that lull period before school starts.
Yep.
And camp is over. It's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, works out good. It's like the last big thing before Labor Day weekend, and then you go back to school. Perfect. I think it's perfect. It's probably perfect timing, and it would work out that way for them. But yeah, it did feel weird that. Obviously the Meadowlands at Atlantic City are pretty much polar opposite ends of the state. Atlanta, the Meadowlands is not far off the G-Dub. We've been there many times, and
right. Atlantic City is almost more like Philly.
Atlantic City is almost in Philly, so it's almost like two different worlds.
Yeah.
So, but still, though, it is kind of fun. I was still perplexed why they didn't do Boston at some point during the Federation era, but incident. But like John said, this crowd tonight is fucking nuclear. So, no issues there. So, like I said, WWF was all in the building, so no house shows there. We just want to let you know what Crockett or what actually we can call them. I guess we can call them WCW at this point. We're doing, and they were in the area. Philadelphia Saturday night, New Haven Sunday night, and then they went back down for tapings. in Georgia on that Monday. Any news and notes, JR, before we dive into the Meadowlands?
Yeah, just a couple. So since our last show on Saturday's main event, 729, on the 8-5 Superstars, Jack Tunney announced that Ron Garvin was suspended as a referee now due to his actions on Saturday's main event in the Valentine's snooker match. A week later, the Ultimate Warrior pinned Steve Vega, Savio's cousin, at 115 with a press slam splash combo. After the bout, Warrior attempted to carry Vega backstage but was confronted by Bobby Heenan. As Warrior was distracted by Heenan, Andre the Giant came up and choked him out. This would start their post-SummerSlam battles. So, a nice little tease, and that was kind of an iconic moment. They'll play it tonight here to the video package as well. Finally, I think maybe one of our first, I don't recall really talking about SummerSlam or other pay-per-view dark matches yet to this point, but Dino Bravo defeated Coco Beware before the show started, so there's a dark match on the evening. I don't think we've really had one yet. Dark match before pay-per-view.
No, I don't think so either. Maybe, no, not SummerSlam 88. They don't do them for Mania.
Yeah,
Rumble?
Maybe the first. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Take a look.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? We open up with Tony Schiavone and Jesse the Body Ventura welcoming us into the arena. They set up the show ahead. Get into the opening video package, of course, which is a pretty iconic one. We get various summer activities with the kind of cool summer music. So that was one of the more famous opening video montages of this era. And this was a show I rented quite often. Once I started really getting into wrestling in 1990, I rented this one a bunch of times. So I knew the opening. I knew the card well, and I was trying to piece together the timeline on a lot of this. It's interesting when you just start randomly watching these pay-per-views, going backward, and like trying to figure out who came in when and who was champion and who beat who. So it was interesting trying to figure all that out. I also thought this was a really cool spot for Tony. This is his first pay-per-view. He had come in right before WrestleMania, and they gave him a pretty big gig here. It's, Gorilla takes the year off. He had done SummerSlam 88, and they pair Tony with Jesse. So I'm not sure why they decided to go Tony, if they just felt like he was ready, if they felt like they'd give him a shot. I'm not sure if Gorilla was just kind of off for the summer. I don't know what was going on there, but I'm glad they did. And I guess we could talk for a minute about Tony because, we mentioned it off air, but I was always surprised, and John, it sounds like you were too, that he didn't stick around longer. He had the look of what McMahon you would think would want in an announcer. He was, I don't call him in shape, but whatever. Thin, good-looking guy, young. He didn't have that Southern accent. He had a lot of experience calling big-time shows, and Scott, we've talked about it on the MSGs, like how flawlessly he was at doing the TV aspect of those because of all his work in Crockett. He had backstage expertise, and I guess it was maybe more a Tony decision than a Vince decision. But you have to wonder what he could have been if he had stuck around, because it seemed like he's what they ended up looking for years later with kind of that prototypical announcer look and voice.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on the Tony fan club all night as we go through. He knows exactly when to raise his voice at the exciting moments, and just makes it that much better. And it was as we'll see years later down the line. I mean, he really could have filled in and got through some of the later pay-per-views, because it's a shame that he only hung out a short time. But if you listen from his podcast, it sounds like his wife didn't like Connecticut, and sounds like his wife knows what she's doing.
Right, can't blame her there.
Yeah, seriously, I don't blame her either. It's funny because it's amazing that it seemed like Gorilla kind of checked out in the summertime, because I don't think he does. I mean, he doesn't do SummerSlam for the next couple of years. So I feel like he takes the summer off after, he does the prime times, which he could tape and do in one clump. But we don't see him on MSG, obviously. And I don't know if we haven't been watching them. We'll have to check our files. But I don't know if he does the Maple Leaf Garden shows.
Probably not.
Boy, Billy Red
Lion. I mean, I'm sure he was doing, he obviously did prime time still. And he was doing, I would think, TV, like challenge. Oh, no, well, Tony was doing challenge, right?
There's a couple Boston shows he does with the MSGs, too.
Yeah, he must do. I think he does do challenge, right? It's him and...
I think Tony does challenge, yeah.
Oh, okay. Obviously, it's Vince and Jesse do Superstars, so...
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because Tony's doing that. You hear him sometimes, like, in the video packages. I'm looking quick. Gorilla was still doing it in April.
Yeah, I don't remember him on Challenge.
That's it. He's off till... well, actually, it was him and Tony. It was Gorilla and Tony on Challenge.
By the way, I was right. At the '89 Rumble, or at the Rumble earlier in the year, we had two dark matches: Jim Powers, Barry Horowitz, and Sam Houston, Steve Lombardi.
Okay.
So we did have dark matches earlier in the year. There was no dark matches at. I don't think there was. I don't know if we mentioned it, but I don't think there were dark matches at WrestleMania. So.
All right, so here we go. So on the 5/16, I'm sorry, in the 6/18 challenge, Red Rooster defeated Jake Milliman by submission. Prior to the bout, Gorilla Monsoon left the broadcast booth and left Bobby Heenan to announce by himself. Monsoon returned during the next match and said he was arranging Tony Schiavone to join them for the next week's show. The next week was Tony Schiavone's debut as a commentator alongside Gorilla and Bobby. And then, I believe from there, it's Tony... Graham doesn't have it as much, but I know there's a couple here that say Tony and Gorilla. So it looks like they might have gone through the fall or whatever. So,
Jake the Milkman Milliman.
Yeah.
AWA fame there. Who would end up getting the big win in the whatever that fucking stupid number something challenge or whatever that garbage was the following year.
So it's like Gorilla and Tony do the rest of the year. So I don't know if he took time off. Maybe they just wanted to give Tony the rub, but maybe they figured he was ready.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just curious because that's 2 straight SummerSlams now. Obviously. Oh no, Gorilla was there last. I'm sorry, Gorilla was there.
Right,
the
he
year
did
before. That's right. It was him and he was there with
Superstar.
Superstar. So.
Okay. All right, let's get into the show. Our opening match is a hot one. The Hart Foundation taking on the Brainbusters, our brand new WWF Tag Team Champions. But as we find out in the early going, the tag team titles are not on the line because they're saying it was signed before the Busters were champions, which is crazy when you think of how far in advance things were announced, because they won the titles and in canon on July 29th. This match is the end of August, so it's crazy that this was announced 4+ weeks ahead. Mm-hmm. But Bobby works his magic, and here we are. Wonderful dream match on paper. Interesting twist with the non-title. Hart's back together after they spent a lot of the summer apart, which we've talked about. And Jesse says it's a no-win situation for the Harts. He says if they win, they don't get the titles, and if they lose, they may not get a title shot for another year. Keep that in mind. Tully Blanchard, Bret Hart open things up. Bret overwhelms him, works the arm in a nice flurry. Arn comes in and gets more of the same from both Bret and Anvil. Jesse calls Anvil strange as the Harts work over Arn. Tully gets a tag, goes to the eyes, but it doesn't matter as Anvil overpowers him and keeps the Harts on top, working quick tags and battering the arm. Jesse thinks the Busters underestimated the Harts as Bret hooks a hammerlock. The Busters try to double Bret, but Bret stymies them and flips them both to the floor to a big pop. Tully comes back, but Bret slugs him right back out to the floor and then chases him around, and that leads to Arn clobbering Bret from behind with a very hard blow. Tully eats knees on a splash. We get a big brawl that ends with the champs outside. The Harts batter Tully as they keep dominating the match. The Harts do, not the champs. Harts batter Tully. Anvil catches a leaping Tully and rams him hard to the corner. Arn comes back in and knees Anvil from behind and then yanks Tully out of the way of an avalanche, and Anvil careens hard to the corner. The Busters finally take control. They work the back, including a seated chinlock by Tully. The champs then double team and hammer away until Anvil and Arn collide hard in the middle of the ring. Bret knees Arn in the back and as he hits the ropes, and the crowd gets fired back up. Anvil finally tags Bret, who cleans house and runs through his offense on Tully. Things break down with Bret taking Tully out with a clothesline as Arn and Anvil end up on the floor. Arn hits the post, and that allows the Harts to hit a nice slingshot double team shoulder block to a pop. Anvil slams Tully, then power slams Bret on top of him in a classic move. Anvil and Bobby tie up the ref. Arn is about to clobber Bret during the cover, and Arn is able to clobber Bret during the cover, and the Brainbusters switch and steal the win with Arn covering his head from the ref in a great bit so he wouldn't notice it's him and not Tully. Red hot match, non-stop action. The crowd is all fired up. The Harts nearly do it, but the Brainbusters outsmart them. It was controlled chaos to perfection, smooth offense, seamless action, a tag team clinic, and a great opening match where not even the non-title stipulation did not affect things at all. It was still able to keep cranking along. The crowd is into it. So I went 4 stars on this. I'd have to look back, but just quickly off the top of my head, the best opener to date on pay-per-view, I'm guessing. Unless I'm missing a glaring one, but I don't think so. So great stuff, Scott, to start us off.
No, there is no opener to this point better than this.
And it probably holds up for a while until at least early 91.
Yeah, Rumble Night, yeah. And then probably not again till 3 years after that. So, yeah. I gave this match. I'm looking at our old written vault that we have on PlayStation.com. You actually went up. What'd you say? 4? You went up a half star from when we did that one.
I did 3.5 on that one. Yeah, you did 3.5 on that one. It's a great match.
Yeah, I stayed the same grade I had that one. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's arguably one of my favorite matches of all time. It's one of the greatest openers of all time. What a way to start this show. Just two electric tag teams. We haven't seen Brett and Anvil together for a while. They kind of been going on separate loops, but they're just so damn good. And Arn and Tully are on another planet compared to a lot of guys on this roster and a lot of tag teams on the roster who are still very good as well. But I always like the controlled chaos. I said that in my written comments, and I mention it now. Arn and Tully are the best at turning things crazy without the match losing its focus. They do a great job of making things chaotic, running around and taking shots outside and all that without letting the match get out of hand and kind of lose its focus. That's what two expert, veteran studs like the two of them can do because they're that good. And Brett and Anvil rolled with it. Great way to start the show. Great match to get Tony comfortable. And one thing, and I think I'm pretty sure Jesse has said this in interviews. He liked working with Tony actually because first of all, Tony was easy to pick on, but that's good for the gimmick. But I think he liked. I mean, no knock on Gorilla, but Tony did a better job of really breaking the match down move by move, and I think Jesse thrived on that kind of thing because he hadn't been able to do it much. And I think that kind of lends to the commentary being comedic and analytical at the same time. And I think we'll hear a lot of that throughout the show tonight. But a perfect match for Tony to get his to pop his WWE pay-per-view cherry because it's his kind of match. It's an NWA style. It's one of his teams that he knows against a team equally as great, putting on a fucking clinic. So it's very hard to say a bad thing about this show. I have to be honest. I think the half star is because it's not a title match. That might be the only thing I can think of. If this was for the belts, I might have given it 5 stars. That's how great this match is for me, John. But just great control chaos. Two tremendous teams. What a way to start the night.
Yeah, that's my only criticism is if the Busters were going to go over, then why didn't they just make it a title match? It would have put them over. It would put them over that much more. So
yeah,
that's my only complaint. But as far as the action, these are two of the best teams of all times. There's not much what I could add for you guys. It's just tremendous, just a textbook tag team action. But as far as the commentary, it sets a tone for the whole night that of Jesse just trying to punk Tony left and right, and Tony right away standing up for himself. He takes every blow and he gives it back like he goes on and he says the Busters won with Andre's help, and then he was going in on the Brainbusters, questioning if they're so great, why don't they put the titles up, and Jesse giving it back at him. So it sets the tone right away, and Tony handled himself well.
Yeah, I wonder if they didn't do the title thing because maybe they felt like if you have non-title, the fans will buy that the Hearts may win. Like, why else did you make a non-title? Whereas if it's a title match, the Hearts are really going to win it a month later. So that's the only thing I can think of is maybe they figured it would be a little less obvious that the Busters are going to win. And partially, too, maybe they were just trying to put Bobby over as as a brain and the weasel, like all that stuff. And they just figured it was an easy chance to do that. That's all I can come up with for that. But yeah, Tony and Jesse are immediately established their relationship back and forth. And they have a great relationship, and it's on display in his run here and then again in 93 WCW where they're flawless really throughout that year, and they're tremendous together. So it's kind of one of the more unheralded. I think they've gained steam over the last handful of years, but I think for a while it was an unheralded commentating pair just for how good they were together, and it's on display already here in match 1 of their first pay-per-view together. All right, we go backstage. Gene is with the American Dream. Dusty Rhodes wearing Big Boss Man's hat, has a stick as well. Dusty is super excited, talks about everything he does better than the Honky Tonk Man, and he says he's going to kick Honky's booty. And a very classic promo, Big Dust's first WWF pay-per-view promo. And Dusty Rhodes, born Virgil Riley Reynolds Jr. on October 11, 1945 in Austin, Texas. Graduated high school. Rhodes played baseball and football for West Texas State, turned professional. Tried out for the AFL Boston Patriots, realized they're garbage. He was cut, but he moved on to play for the Hartford Charter Oaks as well, another stupid team. 1967,
speaking of hot garbage.
Started advertising with a newspaper for Tony Santos' professional wrestling promotion, Big Time Wrestling, out of Boston. Drove to Boston with no experience, bluffed his way into working, and used his real-life friendships with wrestlers to get the job. Billed as Dusty Runnels in one of his first matches for the BTW World Title against Frank Scarpa. Worked over from there, kind of grew in his career. Moved on to World Class as well. In Texas, he adopted the name Dusty Rhodes, met Gary Hart, who had suggested he change his ring name to Lonesome Rhodes, who was a character Andy Griffith had portrayed in A Face in the Crowd, and Rhodes reportedly replied, "Well, I don't plan on being so lonesome." So he stuck with the name Dusty, took on the last name Rhodes, and magic was born. Gary liked Dusty, convinced the Von Erichs to bring him in as a rule-breaking heel. Began teaming with the Spoiler, left Texas, went to Kansas City. Then he went on back to big time, Western States, Detroit, all over the place, Florida, of course. Used his charisma and personality to really get himself over. Rhodes' character became a hero in 1974 after Pac Song and Gary Hart turned on him in Florida against Eddie and Mike Graham. Led him to make a breakout as a solo performer, primarily in Florida, and referring to himself as the American Dream. 1977, Rhodes wrestled for a brief stint in the WWF, on and off, through 1981, of course. During that time, main evented MSG twice against superstar Billy Graham. Pretty well-known matches. Began working as a booker and wrestler with Jim Crockett in the Mid-Atlantic. Teamed with Magnum TA against the Four Horsemen and the Russians in 85. Of course, Magnum's career ended in 86, so that team came to an end. And then teamed with Nikita Koloff as the Superpowers. Was a two-time World Six-Man Tag Team Champion with the Road Warriors. Feuded with Abdul the Butcher, Pac Song, Terry Funk, Kevin Sullivan. On and on it goes. Rhodes battled Ric Flair and Harley Race over the NWA World Title. Twice he held it by defeating Race and once by defeating Flair. October 85, he gave the awesome interview that became known as the Hard Times promo, arguably his most popular of a litany of great ones. Fired after Starrcade 88 because of a taboo on-screen bloodletting during a November 26 altercation with the Road Warriors. Furious at the interference, Rhodes booked a storyline where a Road Warrior animal pulled a spike out of his shoulder pad and jammed it into his eye. And then Rhodes was fired for that. Returned to Florida for a bit, captured the PWF heavyweight title, returned to the AWA for a cup of coffee, and then came calling to the WWF, was introduced to audiences with a series of vignettes. Of course, performing working class roles, plumber, butcher's apprentice, gas station attendant, pizza delivery man, and on and on. And here he is making his pay-per-view debut. So you guys were watching. I was not at this time. What was it like seeing Dusty jump ship to the WWF?
It was surreal. It was surreal.
Yeah.
It was unimaginable. He was just so NWA, so Crockett. He was like, the statesperson, the statesman for Crockett, and it was just surreal seeing him in a WWF ring. It was, but as we see, it's also hard to believe, how over he gets, but that's just the brilliance of Dusty. He could get over anywhere. But it was quite a shock seeing him in a WWF ring.
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously way too young to see him when he was feuding with Superstar in 77, 78, 79. I was way too young. So when I first watched Crockett and when I first watched Dusty, it was in 84. The feud with Flair leading up to Starrcade with the $1 million match with Joe Frazier as the ref. But yeah, the build to Starrcade 85 and the hot times, it's just amazing, and arguably, and they put it on the network when they did the rivalries. Him and Flair, one of the greatest feuds of all time. Perfectly the arrogant heel with the fur coats and the women, and Dusty with his with his V-neck t-shirts and his fucking David Allen Coe hats and stuff. He was perfect, working man. And seeing him in WWF, the fucking plunge in the toilets and where's my fucking pizza? I mean, it was just, incredible vignettes. I thought they were kind of funny. But then when I saw him come out, like, he used to just wear regular tights and cowboy boots, and then the fucking polka dots. I'm like, what the fuck is he wearing polka dots for? Like, that made no sense. It was weird, but maybe it was just Dusty being Dusty. But you know what? He made it work. Mm-hmm. He didn't give a fuck. Whatever. I'm wearing polka dots, baby.
Computer took your job, daddy.
Daddy. You gotta go watch and a kick in the butt.
It's funny because when I started watching, like, this was the Dusty I first knew. So, and I liked him right away. I mean, he definitely hooked you. He was charismatic. I didn't know anything really much about his background. I learned soon after. But a lot of what he brought to the table was new for me, and this is all I knew him as, was the polka dot guy. And yeah, obviously it's probably done as a rib and, a little bit of payback for the long-running rivalry between the two promotions. But being classic Dusty as an example for anyone, and not just in wrestling, but in life, to just kind of buy into what you're being given and go with it and make it work and become a star. And that's exactly what Dusty did. He took what could have been real goofy and silly and a burial and fucking got it over because he's so amazing and so charismatic that he made it work. And a lot of similarities maybe to the guy he's fighting tonight, who also took what could have possibly been kind of a goofy gimmick and made it work in his own way. And that is Dusty Rhodes taking on the Honky Tonk Man. The big pay-per-view debut of Big Dust. Honky and Jimmy shuffle out to booze, and they are losing relevance by the day. But this is a pretty good spot for him to still make pay-per-view in a singles match. Big pop for Dust, who brings out so much energy and charisma, and Tony's eating it up. I mean, obviously a big Dusty guy from the time of the NWA, so he is just loving seeing Dusty here. We get some stalling and antics to start. Things get underway. Dusty lands a few shots. Honky bails to regroup. Dusty musses with Honky's hair and keeps screwing with him while working him over. Dusty works the leg as Jesse says, starts talking about Rick Rude and how he won most abs. And he says Jesse could win, how Rude won best abs. He said Dusty would win most abs, not best abs. Dusty grabs a headlock and they get tied up with Jimmy. That allows Honky to bop him with the megaphone. Honky works through his weak offense with a loose chin lock. Dusty tries to charge back into it, but Honky catches him with a knee and smacks him and then goes to the chin lock a couple times. Honky goes to the eyes and slugs away, but Dusty comes back with some hard shots, eventually dropping Honky after a flip, flop, and fly. Honky dodges a charge and slings Dusty into the ref. Jimmy grabs the guitar, gets on the apron, but Dusty ducks and he just destroys Honky with it. Dusty drops the elbow and gets the win to a big pop from the crowd and Tony, who fucking loved it too. A fun little match. Dusty really just showcasing his charisma shtick. Honky's fine here, but, again, past his prime, whatever prime he had. A good pay-per-view debut win for Dusty. And already, out of the gate, has this iconic theme music, which is cool to see. Because at this point, theme music still wasn't 100% prevalent, but more and more guys have it. And now we're even seeing debuting guys having these classic themes, which is cool. Obviously, the American Dream, one of the best themes they ever made. And it is playing when Sean Mooney catches up with the loopy Honky Tonk Man in the aisle after, and Honky thinks he's Elvis, which I thought was pretty funny. That's one of the funnier Honky promos, where he's just completely out of it from the guitar shot, and you get American Dream blasting over them. So I want a 1.5 stars on this, Sean. It was fun, campiness, and Dusty is just Dusty, so he carries this thing.
As entertaining a 2-star match as you'll ever see. And first of all, what hits you right away? Tony's first 2 matches, they want to make him comfortable with the Brain Busters and Dusty, 3 of his old friends. But as much as we shit on Honky, this is the perfect first opponent for Dusty. The way he bumps and stooges around, and also he still has the IC run, so he's got some cachet. So beating him, looks good for Dust on his first pay-per-view match. So. They couldn't have picked a better opponent than Honky Tonk Man. And also, cosmetically, Honky, he almost matched Dusty stretch mark for stretch mark. Honky doesn't exactly spend much time in a gym. For an Elvis impersonator, he looked like 1977 Elvis. Right
sitting on the toilet eating the peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, right before he ate that last peanut butter, banana, and bacon sandwich that got lodged in his friggin' poop shooter. That's the Elvis Honky looked like. He didn't look like the king. He looked more like a prince, and not exactly Prince Pretty. More like Prince who, Scott?
It's Pudgy.
There you go. I tried to tee it up for you like a Met reliever. Like a Met reliever. You
blew it. You threw the Familia gas can at me there. Thank you.
Just perfect. And Tony's excitement, the iconic theme song again. And Jesse, that was a throwback because Jesse used that one on Adrian Adonis in one of the 86, I think it was either WrestleMania 2 or one of the his most abs line was that was a throwback. But just as great a 2-star match, as entertaining as you'll see.
This is 2 stars for me. But again, 2 stars for the match, fucking 9 stars for the general greatness. There's no better guy to give Big Dust to out the door, out of the gate than a guy that he could easily fuck around with and, dance a little dance and move on. And I'm sure this is the first time these two have had a big match together. I'm sure they wrestled Memphis and, when they were, when Dusty was when Honky was with Larry Latham, the future Moondog. So I'm sure they were very comfortable. And you took my you're 100% right, John. What a way for Tony to get comfy in the big seat by having 3 of his boys, on display. And it also opens up what JR would enjoy when he entered the wrestling world, is the wonderful relationship between fucking Dusty and Jesse. At least just endless commentary greatness for the next, fucking year or 8 months or whatever. It's Dusty. I mean, it's, it's 89, he's already been in the business, fucking 16 years or something at this point. So you're not expecting, him and Harley in Tampa in 79 or whatever. You're going to get a lot of dancing around and elbows and the bionic elbow, baby, and all that stuff. And there's nothing more to say. Crowd's pumped. And I'll tell you something, considering that, this part of the country hadn't seen Dusty much. Even the older fans hadn't seen him. I think he popped up back in WWF in maybe 81. I think he popped in for a month or two, because I remember when I was watching the All-Stars on the network, I remember him popping in for a couple of spots in 81 and then left. But the crowd was very comfy and very excited he was there, so no issue there. Honky, does what he, does best at this point. Not much more to say here. Dusty's just tremendous, and it's good to have him in the company. He's a good, maybe a guy that Vince at the time wanted to trust. Mm-hmm. With some, maybe it was a guy that he would keep around for backstage, an agent or something, somebody he could trust, that he, if his father trusted him, when, big title matches with the superstar in, 77, 78, I'm sure Vince Jr. had no problem with having Dusty around. So I think it was a match made in heaven for Dusty at this point in his career, and for Vince. So no problem there. 2 stars, but like John said, the most entertaining 2-star match you'll probably ever see.
Mean Gene's backstage with Hacksaw, King Duggan and Demolition. They said they got wrinkles in the attack and have gone to basics. After a trip to the dungeon, they went back to basic training and will kick teeth in. Duggan has the S&M mask like Demolition and says he has a new outlook now after training with the former champs. Good fired up promo from these three. And that brings us to a big WrestleFest 88 rematch as Mr. Perfect takes on the Red Rooster. Perfect has a great arrogant look amidst a pile of booze. Rooster chugs out as Tony says he may end the perfect record, which may be one of the most ludicrous things you'll ever hear. As much as Rooster sucks, thank God he's not fighting the Brooklyn Brawler, though. Tony says it's been a tremendous year for the Rooster, which is just, he's dinging his own credibility here, moment by moment. Rooster pecks around as we get started with some shoving and some tight grappling. Perfect chucks Rooster and does a chicken strut to mock Rooster. According to Tony, as well, he calls it the chicken strut. Rooster lands a stiff slap, and we get a bunch of ducks and reversals before Perfect shifts his weight on a slam and falls on top for 2. Perfect gets a nice standing drop kick to send Rooster outside, and Jesse jokes that was the first. He was the first to do the standing drop kick, which was a funny bit. Perfect gets dumped outside, and Rooster, and I couldn't tell if he was being serious or not. You never know with Jesse. He may have actually been.
I know, right?
Rooster comes out for a slugfest. Rooster seems banged up, though. He's limping. He comes in, and Perfect just grabs him and hooks the Perfect Plex for the win. Pretty much a squash, and you wonder if it would go longer if Rooster was healthy. I believe he busted his knee up, and I think they hint at it. And I believe it's been reported after it really kind of fucked his knee. Fine showing. It was a good idea to keep it quick. I went 2 stars on this. Really just kind of a perfect squash. You wonder if it would have been longer at all. Or if it was a selling, what really went into Rooster here. But as is, I'm happy it went the direction it did. What do you got, Scott?
Yeah, I gave this 2 stars. It was fine. It was obvious that the Rooster was cooked. I mean, what a fucking mess. I was expecting a little more for Perfect in terms of an opponent. I don't know who else you could have given him, I guess. I don't know. All the real work rate guys were locked up with other matches, so it's not that. I guess they were a little empty of guys. I mean, maybe you could have had him against Coco. Maybe ditch that shitty fucking dark match. If any way to not have to watch Dino Bravo do anything, probably was a good thing. So, otherwise, it's fine. Maybe Vince wanted to kind of have his own little rib match, the Perfect I picked versus the Perfect I thank God I didn't pick, and be done with it. So that's fine. Nothing crazy. By the way, your match times, my apologies. Let's see. The opener, just to recap, let's see. The opener was 15:55. Pretty good. The second match was, what was Dusty? I think it was like 6 minutes. 9:40. Oh, a little longer than I thought. And then this match was 3:21. So that's perfect. No pun intended. I don't think you wanted much more out of that. Yeah, no, typical, mid-card fare. Nothing crazy for Perfect, John. Just a, nice, easy, simple win.
Yeah, Rooster definitely banged up his knee, and because that finish was he just walked right into the Perfect place. But short and sweet, a good showcase for the Perfect to continue to get him over, and also Perfect didn't really wrestle like a heel at all. It was Rooster was the one that was punching, tried a couple of eye gouges, and Rooster was actually, and Perfect was doing all clean wrestling moves. So one criticism of Tony, though, sometimes like he runs out of things to say, and during Rooster's entrance, which was another cricket inducing entrance, Tony said would repeat this a lot. He would say, "The fans coming to their feet." It's like, yeah, during Rooster's entrance, yeah, they're coming to their feet because this is the bathroom break match, or the merchant, or this is the merch match. Yeah, that's why they're coming to their feet in order to go to the bathroom. So yeah, that's one criticism of Tony. He'll repeat that line when he runs out of things to say like 4 or 5 times. But otherwise, 2 stars. And
look, he didn't miss too much time. He actually competed a little bit right after SummerSlam, and then he got subbed out like a handful of times in mid-September. So whatever it was, maybe it was just kind of like a jam or a stinger or something. Who knows? But it didn't take him out for much action, long for action, unless he just didn't want to come out and just fought through it, which is also possible. But he clearly dinged something up. So maybe he might have just jammed it and they just went home quickly, so he didn't fuck it up further. But yeah, no, I mean there's not much out there around it. So anyway, we head backstage, and Mean Gene Okerlund is now with Rick Rude and Bobby Heenan to set up the Intercontinental title match here tonight. We get this.
Gentlemen, as you know, the Ultimate Warrior. Fuck it.
Get that legendary moment where Mean Gene fucks up.
Tremendous. Oh God,
it's a classic blooper for the reel, and of course that did air originally on the pay-per-view. Was cut out of subsequent airings on both video and later the network, which is where we watched it. But of course, it does live on for infamy, and one of the most infamous bloopers of all time. Rude says they'll prove the Warrior is a liar and that he is the Ultimate IC champ. Bobby says they'll break the rules to keep the title if needed, and he says Warrior is going to let his fans down, and he'll have black and blue eyes so he doesn't have to paint his face. That brings us to a fantastic little paper 6-man match as Rick Martel teams up the fabulous Rougeau brothers against the Rockers and Tito Santana. You blend 2 feuds into a big plate of beauty, as the Rougeaus and Rockers have really been warring through most of '89. Santana and Martel, of course, had busted up at Mania, and they've been ongoing since. Martel picked up new manager Slick, which we talked about recently, and Tony is fearing it's going to be 5-on-3 in this one with Slick and Jimmy Hart at ringside. Jesse thinks the heels have a big advantage since they can speak French. Jacques Rougeau and Tito open up as Martel denies Tito a shot at him. Things quickly devolve into a big brawl. The faces clean house. The drop kicks as the crowd heats up. We reset with Ray and Jannetty. Ramon levels him with a stiff kick to the jaw, allowing the heels to start working Marty over with a triple team. Martel leapfrogs a charge and showboats wonderfully, but Marty pops up and tags Tito, and Martel scampers away and tags Ray as Jesse says this is all those mind games by Martel. Tito controls and gets a near fall before going to a side headlock. Tito gets tied up with Jacques and Ramon, is able to crack him with a knee lift to the back. Tito gets hot-shotted, and then Martel finally comes in and aggressively works over his old friend. Jacques levels Tito with a beautiful drop kick and then cuts off a comeback attempt. Martel returns and is so great in offense here, just taking it to Tito. Tito gets a real fun near fall on a sunset flip, but Martel just mauls him right after it. Ray tags in and gets a Boston Crab, and Jacques drops a knee on the back. Ray goes to a chin lock, and Jacques gets an abdominal stretch with an assist from Martel. Martel cuts off another comeback, doing whatever he can at all costs to keep Tito grounded. Jacques tags in, but Tito gets a crossbody for 2, as Jesse says he almost pulled one out of his Mexican hat. The Rockers get baited in, but he can't stop the tide as the Rougeaus take turns on offense. Tito gets another sunset flip for 2. Ray pops up and kicks him down before a chin lock. Jacques comes in, hits a flying back elbow for 2, but Tito is able to dodge a Jacques charge, and he careens into his brother instead. Tito slowly crawls over and makes an attack to Shawn Michaels as the crowd erupts. Michaels wrecks shit on Martel, including a great drop kick and a nice suplex. Goes up and hits a flying fist and tags Marty. Shawn press slams Marty onto Martel. Jacques comes in and drops an elbow on Martel by accident as things break down into chaos. Tito pelts Martel with the flying forearm, but Martel tumbles to the floor. Marty gets tangled up with Jimmy Hart. Jacques kicks Marty into his manager. Marty rolls up Jacques, but Martel sneaks in and decks Marty and cradles him for the win. an amazing six-man with nonstop controlled chaos and beautiful offense by all six men. Everything was crisp. Everything was on point and executed to perfection. A real long heat segment that was so well done. Tito at his best, just selling and selling here. And the crowd is just rocking for this. We got a tease of Martel and Tito, but we're going to save the big blow-off for later. Great showing for all six men, and just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, it's a match on paper you think would hit, but these don't always hit, even though as good as they look on paper. But they were feeling it tonight. And it's just such a seamless match. I went 4 stars, John. One of my favorite matches, favorite gems, classic 80s WWF match.
Yeah, they took our WrestleMania 5 booking advice with this
Right.
and another match you'll see later as far as condensing and moving the card along. Although I would, we'll get into it, but I would have chosen maybe a couple other six-mans because we really want to see that Martel Tito match on a big pay-per-view, which I don't think we're going to. But with all that, this is first of all, this is a tremendous night for themes, as you mentioned, with the Dusty and All American and the Rougeaus and Martel coming to All American boys. This is that and the American Dream. That's two of the classics of all time. That we get, and this is only 4 matches in, so a good night for entrance music fans. And just the way Martel avoided Tito through the whole match, and they teased it, and finally the moment where Tito gets his hands on him and hits the forearm, and they just tease the crowd all throughout the match, and then finally the crowd explodes. But unfortunately it doesn't last because Tito continues his tag team streak of being like a Draymond Green and always arguing with the refs and causing his partner to get fucked up, which is Tito, great singles wrestler, but not so much as a tag wrestler. So, but tremendous match, not nonstop, and all pros in the ring, tremendous.
I echo every single thing both of you guys said. I gave this match 4 stars. I almost wanted to give it 4.5, but it was so fucking good. Tremendous, like John said, tremendous theme songs all around, including the Rockers.
Mm-hmm.
This match was a lot of fun. I mean, you've arguably got 6 of the most athletic guys in the company right now, and pull the ripcord on them and give them as long as they need, and they got 14:58. Which for 1989 WWF is like 45 minutes now. And it was just so much fun. And Jesse and Tony, again, were on point.
And this is one, too, where I'm curious of, like, as good as Gorilla was, like, I think Tony helped make this match because he was able to hang with the action so well.
Yes.
And keep it chugging along. I'm curious how this match like this would have been with Gorilla or Vince at this point, if they would have been able to keep up or kind of go left behind. It was like just the perfect night to have Tony in the booth.
I agree 100%. There's another match where I think they would have. I think Vince would have been blowing the moves, and Gorilla would have been with the analogies, and I think Jesse would have had to act differently to Gorilla, and I think a lot of the action would have been forgotten because Tony didn't have a problem crediting the heels when they did something good. Gorilla's problem was, listen, he's one of the greatest play-by-play guys of all time, and he was big kayfabe for baby faces, and sometimes even when the match didn't warrant it, he went overboard on making sure that the heels were scumbags. Even if they were looking good in the ring and putting on legit moves, he couldn't give them full credit. Whereas Tony, coming from the NWA and WCW, where you kind of blur the line a little bit, believe it or not, in the days pre-Attitude Era, he knew how to at least compliment and roll with it when the heels were actually looking good, whereas Gorilla had to needle Jesse, even if the heels were doing well, that something had to be wrong, you know what I mean? And sometimes I think that blinds the flow of a good match. And Tony didn't allow that tonight. And he had a ton of great athletic matches, and this was a good example of that. I have to say, JR, I think you're right. I think Gorilla, I don't say Gorilla would have ruined it, but it wouldn't have had that same shine that Tony was able to give it because he knew how to handle matches like this. So, my God, what a great match. And it still tells you, even at this stage of his career, Tito can still put on a good match. The Rougeaus and the Rockers are just so damn good, and Martel is just a great heel. Everything about this match clicked. I couldn't give it, if we were doing quarters, I might have given it 4.25, but 4.5 might have been a little much. 4 stars is perfect. Just a tremendous, fun match with a lot of good storytelling and psychology and great in-ring work. Another gem.
What did you guys think of Slick and Martel? Did you like that pairing?
Yeah. I could have seen Martel with Bobby though. But Bobby, the Heenan family was loaded. I don't know if Martel and Perfect would have fit together because they're even with Rude, like Rude, Martel, and Perfect are Perfect. He's not with Perfect right now, but let's just say right now, Rude and Martel seem very close to the same type of heel. So they probably wouldn't have fit. Bobby would have had too much of the same guy. Yeah, I couldn't have seen. I don't know what you think, John. I couldn't have seen Martel with Slick with like Jimmy at this point. I think Slick was a good choice, if not Bobby.
Yeah, Slick was a good choice. I have no qualms with that. They're different, but it worked.
I think I could have seen with Jimmy just because of he kind of the Rougeau's going the French Canadian thing. Like I could have seen them as a little stable
that's true.
with Jimmy, because he was so tied in. Do you think he would have been more or less successful if he had a manager and doesn't pick up the gimmick he eventually gets, or do you think the gimmick was the right thing for him? Because he's not the model yet. I mean, he's just Rick Martel here as a heel with Slick. Like, do you think if he just stayed with Slick or Jimmy and just kind of was French Canadian heel Martel, or do you think the way he goes is what was meant to be for him?
Yeah, he didn't need the model. I don't think it enhanced him. He was a great heel no matter what, and especially with this Tito feud. After his initial turn, he was hot. So yeah, I don't really think the model, but that was where they were going was as far as had to have gimmicks at the time.
I don't think it hurt him, but he probably didn't. They probably didn't have to go that crazy with it. But it was fine. I had no problem with it when we get to it. But
right.
It was fine either way.
If everybody
was a loser, then
Right. It just makes you wonder how they gave up, why they decided to switch it so quick. Like him and Slick are not together that long, so it just makes you wonder when. Because I'm not sure when they started the model stuff. But
the atomizer is a good prop, as we'll see coming up. That's a good prop for his gimmick.
So on September 23rd, Superstars. He's still with Slick. He beats fucking Terry Daniels. After the match, or during the match, a pre-recorded promo says because of sex appeal, he believes he should become a model. And then we got a feature on the 11/18 Superstars on the model. So it looks like it was sometime in October we started developing the character of the model. So he's a little bit longer without it. But all right. Okay. We get a very long and very detailed video package on the Ultimate Warrior versus Rick Rude WrestleMania rematch. Really gets us every bit of interaction between the two men since before Mania, really. And that brings us here to the huge rematch. We saw it at the Meadowlands. Scott, we loved it. Or was it MSG? It was Meadowlands, right? We saw that match?
Yes.
And we get one here. Warriors chased all summer. Rick Rude, Bobby Heenan, laser focused entering the ring, trying to keep multiple gold in the family. Jesse gushes over Rude and how proud he is. The crowd goes bonkers for Warrior, who charges out as usual. We get a slow start as Warrior stalks Rude and ducks and dodges. Jesse says he's the only person that predicted a Rude win at Mania, and he's probably right. Rude lands a few shots, but Warrior shakes it off and clotheslines him hard to the apron. Rude comes in with a sunset flip. Warrior just cracks him in the face to break it, and then press slams Rude to the floor in an insane bump. And after that, guys, we're going to play it for you because it is one of the most legendary bits of commentary featuring Jesse Ventura and definitely featuring Tony Schiavone, an all-time classic, as Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude battle on the floor.
There was no call for that. The name of this sport is wrestling. You wrestle inside the ring. This guy's a lunatic. I don't like him. He goes by his own rules. He don't listen to nothing.
But Jesse, he's brought all this on himself. With Bobby Heenan pulling the leg, with Andre the Giant trying to choke down the Ultimate Warrior. You got to expect a guy like the Warrior to take matters to his own hands.
And that means out to the floor. Hit him with the belt. This should be a disqualification. That's a disqualification. Where the hell is the referee?
That's outside of the ring, Jesse.
So what?
As much, it can just be a count out here.
What are you going to tell me, Schiavone? You can shoot somebody outside the ring as long as it's outside the ring?
Well, no, that...
You know, you're even dumber than Monsoon. I thought Gorilla was the stupidest guy alive.
Right to the head.
I love Tony just completely no-selling it. Right to the head.
Where the hell is the referee?
Oh,
God, that's so
amazing.
great. Damn, it's so great.
All-time classic moment there. Just such good commentary. That jumps out at you from day one, the first time you watch that. All right, so we get that there. Warrior suplexes Rude on the floor, clubs away, and then pitches him back inside and just chucks him right back out. Jesse's losing his shit as Warriors is dominating the match. It says Rude should just take the count out if Warrior's going to be a dick and act this way. Warrior hits a double axe off the top for 2 and slugs away before Rude gets tossed hard into the corner. Warrior slams him down and just beats the piss out of Rude, rattling him with an inverted atomic drop before mocking Rude's hip swivel. Warrior hoists Rude up and drops him hard on his ass and then goes back up, but Rude catches him. And Warrior gets crotched on the top rope. Rude gets to work on the lower back with stiff punches and a seated chin lock. Rude keeps wearing down Warrior and going for pin covers. Warrior blocks the Rude awakening, and Rude ducks a right hand and jumps on his back for a sleeper. Warrior breaks the hold and hits the ropes, but they collide hard and take the ref out with them. Rude is up first and tries to land some shots, but Warrior shrugs them off and comes firing back. Warrior backdrops Rude and starts mowing him down with clotheslines and a nice power slam, but there's no ref to count. Warrior wrecks Rude with a wonderful pile driver. As the ref slowly climbs over, we get a nice near fall as Rude gets his foot on the ropes. Warrior gets a running power slam, but eats knees on a big splash. Rude gets a pile driver variation where he goes to his knees and spikes Warrior, but only gets 2. Rude goes up and hits a leaping fist for 2, and the crowd starts to erupt as we find out Roddy Piper has showed up at ringside. Jesse is pissed again. Rude hits a perfect pile driver now for 2 and notices Piper. Rude goes over and swivels at Piper. Piper retaliates by turning around and mooning Rude. Rude is pissed. He gets on the top rope to yell at him, allowing Warrior to back suplex him off the top, and Jesse just starts panicking here because he knows what's coming. Warrior crushes Rude with a shoulder block and hits the press and the splash to a huge win and a massive pop. Wonderful match, hard offense, good near falls and teases. The crowd is epic. The commentary amazing. The whole package nearly perfect. A step ahead of Mania. Warrior's back on top. Rude saves some face and sets up his next feud. A true classic and one of the best in the 80s WWF pay-per-view canon. I went 4.5 Scott on this one. Just an all-time classic match. And I don't mind the finish because you protect Rude a little bit, and Warrior has proven that he can beat him and dominate him. So it didn't really ruin it for me that Piper comes out and gets involved. Jesse's amazing here. Rude's his favorite guy, at least 1A with Savage, and he is just like all over him in this match, gushing how proud he is of Rude, like a father. And then at the end, where he just knows that Piper fucked him, just how despondent he gets is so good. An amazing match, Scott.
Your match time, believe this is going to be the longest match of the night, 16:02. When you're listening to our awesome show, and you're hearing the things about, I mean, you're a younger fan, you don't know much about Warrior, and you hear the rumors and the scuttlebutt of the years and the whole burial and the DVD and shit, and you think to yourself, I heard this guy sucks, and he's got no moves, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't remember if this is the first time I've done this since Steamboat Savage at WrestleMania 3. I'll have to look back at our lists, but this has been and will always be for me a 5-star match. There is nothing wrong with this match whatsoever. People are like, well, 5-star, Flair, Steamboat. Listen, there's different categories of 5-star matches. You could break this down different ways. No, you're not talking about fucking Flair, Steamboat here. Of course not. What you're talking about is two guys who understood what strengths and weaknesses they had with each other and worked with them. They didn't go above and beyond what they couldn't do. We've talked about this very often. As a matter of fact, JR, we kind of gave Rude a little shit in around 88 that he was kind of slow in the curve to get great matches out. And it took a fucking guy like Warrior to do that. Warrior has a basic power moveset, and Rude, all he had to do was just sit there and get the shit kicked out of him, and then find an opening. And in this case, he had the opening where he crotched him on the top rope. These two guys just knew how to dance. They knew each other's strengths. They knew what they could do in the ring to tell a great story. They didn't go above and beyond. They didn't go overboard. The commentary, I mean, we'd listen to it. I don't even have to go any further. It speaks for itself. It gets even better after that. And then you have Piper. And, I normally don't agree much with run-ins, but this kind of suited because of Bobby and because of what happened at Mania with the foot and everything. Just a tremendous, tremendous match. And as great a mid-card guy as he was at the time, to me, this is where you first realized, at least for me, and I was 16, and I'm watching it with my friends. SummerSlam was always at my house, so I had it on. We had pizza. We're sitting here, and I said to my buddy, he was a huge Warrior fan. I said, I'm telling you right now, this guy's going to be world champion. You could see it. This match here for me, pulled the ripcord on what would eventually be Warrior's mega push. This match for me was the one that I watched and went, this guy's getting there. This is next for him. The Intercontinental title is just a step for him right now. And this match for me did that. Because the crowd is just, I mean, this might be, in my opinion, one of the greatest crowds of all time, of any pay-per-view ever. This Meadowlands crowd is outrageous all night long. Listen to them in that little clip you played. Outrageous. Total energy, beginning to end. I don't know if I'm overgrading it, John, but I don't care. This is arguably one of my 10 favorite matches ever. It always will be. Because these two guys knew exactly what to do, what their strengths were, and how to work together to put on the perfect match for them.
It's one of the greatest feuds in WWF history.
No doubt.
And,
absolutely.
So many levels, so many chapters, and to think this is August '89, and it started in January '88, and it's still going strong. As we'll see, it continues, and it's just every chapter the way they stretched it out. Every chapter was built perfectly, and this is just another tremendous chapter. Right from the start, Rude breaks out a new one. All you out of shape, fat SummerSlam sweat hogs.
Fantastic.
And yeah, I just reiterate. I don't want to keep going over, but the crowd just hung on every move. And
Yep.
And then the Piper involvement, and also in the vignettes where they showed the history of the feud. They also the last one they showed was for an angle where they showed Andre getting involved with Warrior. So with Piper's involvement here, they expertly booked. They set up the fall feuds with obviously Piper and Rude, and also they foreshadowed that Warrior and Andre are gonna start to get into it. But yeah, tremendous. I agree everything you guys say.
You meant January '89, right? Because they weren't feuding in '88.
No, I meant the Rumble. The Rumble of '88. That's when.
No, it was '89.
Oh, okay. This Rumble. Okay, then. Yeah,
you know what that means? Schmuck the system. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, and that. We're going to see a second one of these later on in the evening, but arguably one of the greatest build packages they ever did, ever. Tony doing the talk, the narrative over the clips, so good, and not the first one we'd see, the last one we'd see tonight, that good. But we'll get to that. 5 stars for me. Let me ask you this, guys, before we go to break. Do you think? I'll ask you, John, because obviously, JR, you caught on after the fact. But let me ask you this then: if you could put yourself in the position that John and I were in, watching it at that moment.
Yeah.
Did you think watching it and then seeing the result that Warrior was not just going to be like a stay at this level, like this match was?
Oh yeah, for sure.
The rocket ship.
You could see the trajectory coming. I mean, he obviously, the way they were booking him, it's not just like in a back and forth. I mean, if you look at the other IC champions before him, they were great wrestlers, but no one is dominant, at least not in a while, as good as Savage was and others. Like, they were selling and back and forth, but Warrior sells, but he's just a different type of human out there. Yes, I would have thought for sure he was headed places. Now, I don't know if I could have said for sure that he would have been world champion because, of Hogan kind of being on top still. But I guess if Savage could have won, yeah, I mean, you knew Warrior set up for big things. I think that's painfully, obviously clear here, for sure. So, no, it's a great moment. It's an all-time classic.
Yeah. What do you think, John? When you were watching it live, like I was, did you get that feeling when it ended, when he got the 3 count that my guy, this guy could legitimately be at the top of this company?
Yeah, no, I've had that feeling for a while. Ever since the SummerSlam the year before that he was that he was a special amongst he was above and beyond the rest of the faces, as close to a Hulk Hogan level as anybody else.
Yep, I agree.
Actually, it was Royal Rumble 1989. Boo.
Well, guess what, guys? At this stage of the show, back in the day, we still had intermissions.
Yes.
So they went to the intermission. So this is where we will have our intermission. Not a bad show, JR. Not a bad show at all so far. Not at all. Johnny? Not at all.
No complaints here, except for that. Yeah, except for that. Except for the one schmuck of the system.
All right. Why don't we, take a break. When we return, we'll finish up the back end of this awesome legendary card. We'll do some pop culture and other business, if you will. Until then, enjoy this Yacht Rock theme as we are in the summer of Yacht Rock. As always, be right back.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind. Sweet days of summer, the jasmine's in bloom.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nations, JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on two great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content. Offer tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all of these current shows, plus archives of our previous podcasts over the past 8 years as well, by subscribing to our feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available at PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using www.placetobenation.com/Amazon while doing your online shopping. And be sure to join us at our forum at bigelow34.proboards.com for all sorts of wrestling, sports, and pop culture discussion each and every day, where you can make your voice heard. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hey, this is Scott Keith, the former net cop. You're listening to the Place to Be Podcast.
Oceans apart, day after day, and I slowly go insane. I hear your voice on the line, but it doesn't stop the pain. If I see you next to never.
All right, Nation, we're back taking a look at the iconic SummerSlam 1989. Before we get to that, let's quickly take a spin around PlaceToBeNation.com and our podcast feeds. As we mentioned, it was the 6th birthday of the site over the weekend. Thank you for all of your support and love, and that goes to the fans, the listeners, the readers, the staff, on and on. Anyone who's been a part of PlaceToBeNation.com. On our pop feed, after a 2-year hiatus, fellas, Dadcast is back. Myself and Don Carrara talking a variety of annoyances, which included potty training, lying, and Nickelodeon shows. Nikki, Ricky, Dickie, and Dawn can all go get fucked. So you can go ahead and listen to that. It was good to be back in the saddle. Get a lot of good feedback, as usual, for that show. A lot of people empathizing and thanking us for voicing similar things that they deal with every day. Russell and Sam returned to deliver the Season 1 finale at 90-0. Let's look at Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Of course, the 20th anniversary of that movie. On the Year in Pop, Andy was joined by you fellas Mr. Scolo, Mr. D'Amato, and Dr. G to discuss the news, music, and movies of 1975. Anything you want to talk about there?
Jaws.
Yep, Jaws, and the end of the Vietnam War. A lot of other great TV shows debuted, and the Red Sox were in the World Series, which was rare for that time. So a lot of fun stuff. Check it out.
All right, check that out. Also, on the newest Pop Goes to the Movies special, Andy gave a review of the new live-action Aladdin. If he had waited a week, maybe I could have jumped in, as I started a rare trip to the movie theater this weekend to see that. It was a whole new world for me, and I thought it was a great movie. So I'll have to check out that edition of Pop Goes to the Movies. Hard Traveling Fanboys continued Avengers Month with an installment Longbook Hunters looking at New Avengers Volume 1 Breakouts. NBA team had a double shot of episodes, including Gone Fishing Part 1, looking at the teams that already headed into the offseason, as well as a preview of the NBA Finals, and the same was done by the Cowboy and you, John, running down the finals and breaking down the series between the Warriors and Raptors, so check that out. Now we're 2 games to the series, but still pretty relevant episode to hear what the boys had to think. Be sure to keep an eye on our social media feeds. A reboot of the greatest song of the 80s tournament is starting very soon. On the PTB Wrestling feed, newest Place to Be podcast, Scott, before this one, we had a double dose last week, a rarity. You, me, Jake Williams looked at the May 89 Meadowlands and then came right back the next night to talk with Peter Winson about the May and July 89 Science Mid event. So I doubt you're listening to this without listening to those, but if you are, go check them out. Newest episode of Row 1, Seat 1, Ben Zanni welcomed in Daniel Makabe to talk music and his independent wrestling career. And Scott, you, Nate Milton, and Steve Willie did a recap of Double or Nothing and the newest classic TNA pay-per-view recap. And finally, on a new talk in WCW, Jennifer Smith, Greg Phillips, Tim Capel broke down 3 matches of the Natural, Dusty Rhodes. And if you know anything about Jenny, you know exactly what match she chose for that. So be sure to peep that as well. PlayStation.com, it's a written material. Steve Riddle counted down the top 25 matches in TakeOver history, which was a really good piece, and I think you should all check it out and weigh in as well. Also had the newest installment of the excellent WWE Network Adventure. We took an in-depth look at Mid-South Wrestling from 5/26/84. More NXT TakeOver coverage coming at you as well this week with our newest Draft Wars written series as well. So be sure to check out that. And keep an eye on our social media message board for the GWE Pay-Per-View and TV Match Ever project. Get in the conversation and start researching your list today. With all that said, you know, we had a lot of laughs and jokes over the weekend, guys. Schmuck the System was one of them. And I was just sitting here hoping for an opening, and John D'Amato provided that to me. I was sitting here just waiting for it. Right here waiting for it. Just like Richard Marx was this week in 1989. That was the number 1 song in the country, and that does bring us into Scott Criscolo's Pop Culture Corner.
Thank you, JR. And yes, Richard Marx with the tremendous, not quite a yacht rock song. We're out of the yacht rock window at this point in 89, but this was a great song. 3 weeks at number 1, as of course this Billboard Top 100 came out 2 days before August 26th, 1989. At number 2, Cold Hearted by Paula Abdul. Number 3, Hangin' Tough by Mrs. JR's favorite band, the New Kids on the Block, or what's your favorite band? Number 4, Don't Want to Lose You by Gloria Estefan. Number 5, On Our Own from Ghostbusters 2, Bobby Brown. Number 6, how about this forgotten hit? Karen White with Secret Rendezvous. That was a good cut. At number 7, Once Bitten, Twice Shy by Great White. The End of the Innocents at number 8 by Don Henley. Number 9, Friends by Jody Watley with Eric B. and Rakim. And then at number 10, the one-hit wonder known as Angel Eyes by the Jeff Healey Band, who, of course, you could have seen.
Pretty Little movie. Angel Eyes. Pretty Little...
no, not that. No, not that one.
Damn it.
Angel Eyes, My Way. They were in a Roadhouse. So there's your top 10 on this week in 1989, August 26th. And your number 1 song was Right Here Waiting by Richard Marx. A busy Friday. Yeah, no. At number... we have 5 movies, JR, that came out. Seem like a few of them are stinkers, but we'll see. 5 movies came out that Friday, the 25th. We'll start with... Sounds a lot like Peppermint Twist.
RSV episode 4. Check it out.
That's right. And then it sounded a lot like Peppermint Twist down the line.
I know you only do a top 10, but I think number 11 was a Jive Old Foe. Came in at 11. I think.
Yes. Joe.
$100 internet bucks and a bonehead's wing for if either of you can name the singer of that song.
Angel Eyes.
Pretty Little Angel Eyes.
Angel Eyes. Drifters?
Nope.
No.
John?
No.
I got nothing.
Curtis Lee.
All right.
I believe he's dating Mia Yim.
Are we basking in the Angel Eye glory?
Oh, boy. What about Curtis Lowe?
Oh, I love Curtis Lowe. All right. Let's go to the movies. Curtis Lowe. No, not Curtis Blow. We like Curtis Blow, too. Does Curtis Blow? Maybe. All right. 5 movies came out on this Friday. Let's go to the theaters. We begin with this one. It is called Little Monsters. Did make a lot of money that weekend, but
not quite as good as Little Giants, but
no.
Here we go. Brian's family has moved to suburban Boston, and he feels isolated in his new neighborhood. One morning, Brian finds himself blamed for several things he did not do. Quart of melted ice cream was left in the cupboard. Brian's bike is left in the driveway. Brian insists he's innocent and blames his younger brother Eric, who claims to have seen a monster the night before. As revenge, Brian snatches Eric's lunch and tosses it out the window, hitting Ronnie Coleman, the school bully who boards the bus and antagonizes Brian. At school, they get into a fight until the principal breaks it up, talks to Brian in his office to have another talk since he's new to the school. Starring Fred Savage, Howie Mandel, Howie, Ben Savage, Daniel Stern, Margaret Whitten, Frank Whaley, Devin Rattray. Cool little cast there.
Mark Wahlberg. sounds like I'm listening to Ted, the movie Ted with your actor. Ronnie Coleman.
We'll go to Waltham.
Ronnie going to play football.
You're going to take the green line from Quincy.
At number 4, the movie's called Heart of Dixie.
Heart of Dixie.
They're probably not even close to Boston.
The plot is one sentence. The 3 sorority women at 1957 Alabama College face the experience and difficulties of ethnic strife and integration. And guess what? Same goes for 2019 in Alabama. Starring Ali Sheedy, Virginia Madsen, Phoebe Cates, Treat Williams, Peter Berg, Ashley Gardner, Barbara Babcock.
Trent Williams? You said Trent Williams, is it?
Treat Williams. That's what he does all day long.
Trent Williams is a treat. He's our treat.
So there you go. Quite the cast, actually, here.
All right.
Trent Williams is our own Prince Pretty.
Prince Pretty Desperate. Yes. All right, what's next?
Yes. All right, number 3. At number 3, the movie is called Millennium. Not Robbie Williams. That's not for another decade.
A U.S. passenger airliner in 1989 is about to be struck from above by another airliner on a landing approach. The pilot handles the plane as well as he can. While the first officer goes back to check on the cabin, he comes back to the cockpit screaming, "They're dead, all of them. They all burned up." Bill Smith is a National Transportation Safety Board investigator hired to determine whether the collision and subsequent crash of both aircraft was due to a mechanical fault or human error. Starring Chris Christopherson, Cheryl Ladd, Robert Joy, Lloyd Bachner, Al Waxman. Very 80s names.
Yes.
Be sure all right. To watch this before I get on a plane next week.
Yeah. At number 2, an action film called The Package. Starring El Gigante. No.
And Lex Luger. Gene Hackman stars as Johnny Gallagher, a Special Forces Master Sergeant in the U.S. Army, assigned to escort a prisoner, an Army deserter named Thomas Boyette, from West Berlin back to the United States. When Boyette escapes, Gallagher pursues him and discovers that he's actually a professional assassin hired to kill the leader of the Soviet Union, who clearly resembles Mikhail Gorbachev, after a meeting in Chicago with the President of the United States. Starring Gene Hackman, Joanna Cassidy, Tommy Lee Jones, John Hurd, Dennis Franz, Pam Grier, Rini Santoni. Pretty good cast again. A lot of these movies today have a good cast.
Good cast. Dennis Franz.
Poppy's in it. Wow.
Yeah. And at number 1, an adventure film. Really, this is an actual adventure film, and it made $13 million on the weekend. Wow. All right, I might have to spell this one. Kaneko Monogatari. So Koneko, and then maybe it'll come up after that.
Sure did.
Yep.
The film opens in 1986 on Nippon Farm with a mother cat named Martha. I'm done. All right. Starring, I don't know. It looks like it's
Is it animated?
No, it's not. It's just about... Oh, it's The Adventures of Milo and Otis, basically.
Oh, okay.
This Japanese version.
I see. All right. Well, let's take a look quickly at the box office that weekend.
If it involves a mother cat, I'm out immediately.
Yeah. All right, here we go. From 10 to 1. At number 10 for the weekend, The Package. It was the only new movie. It's the only one of our 5 movies that made it the top 10. Number 9, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. At this point, has made $116 million. At number 8, still making money after 2 months, Batman, which I saw 3 times in the theater because it was that fucking good. $232 million it made to this point, 10 weeks out. Number 7, Casualties of War. Made about $4.1 million. That had Michael J. Fox in. I think it was a Vietnam movie. Number 6, Turner and Hooch. Number 5, Lethal Weapon 2. Number 4, When Harry Met Sally. Number 3, The Abyss. Number 2, Parenthood. And the number 1 movie of the weekend that made just under $10 million, a tremendous comedy titled Uncle Buck. So there you go.
I think Trent downloaded the version called Turner and Cooch.
I was going to say Uncle Buck the Kiss. Oh my God, I'll never forget that song.
That song was non-stop.
Holy fuck! It was not. You did not miss a day on the radio from July till the end of the year in 1999. It just would not stop playing. Oh my God! All right, and finally, Major League Baseball on this Monday evening. Both our teams were in action. The Mets beat the Dodgers 1-0. The winning pitcher, Mr. D'Amato, sweet music itself, Frank Viola, who was we signed him to. Did we trade it? Was that a trade or was that a free agent signing? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, they traded for him.
They traded for him, and he did such a good job for us. He was 10-15 at that point.
Too bad it wasn't as good sweet music as this.
That was the thing that Happy Days sounded like for a minute.
Oh, that's such a good song.
All right. The Yankees lost 7-3 at the Bronx to the Oakland A's, the defending AL champions. Dave Stewart won his 18th game. Andy Hawkins was 13-13. The Orioles. You might as well enjoy this now because we don't get it much now. The Orioles were leading the AL East by 2 games over the Blue Jays. 5.5 over the Red Sox. The Yankees were 58-75 at this point. Oof, wheels were falling off very quickly. I believe this was 89. Was this Lou? I don't know if Stump Merrill was there yet. Oakland, not comfortably ahead. I shouldn't say that. Oakland is leading the AL West, but only by 1.5 games over the Angels and 4 over the Royals. The Cubs were leading the East by 2.5 over the Cardinals, 3 over the Expos, and 3.5 over the Mets. And the Giants were leading the West by 4 over Houston and 7 over San Diego. And there is your Pop Culture Corner. Back to the Meadowlands.
Pretty little angel. Sean Mooney's in the crowd marking out with the fans. And then Mean Gene is backstage as we are leading up to our intermission. He talks to Mr. Perfect, who gloats about the win and puts over his perfect record. He leaves. Roddy Piper comes in. He's fired up, celebrating, jokes about how what's a Scotsman only wear under a kilt? His shoes. Takes shots at the Heenan family, calls Bobby a eunuch, and then mocks crying. Says he takes great pride in Rude's loss being his fault. Calls Rude a gorilla, says he's going to go home, eat a garage, watch some more matches, and get a little rude. Another iconic promo from the Rowdy one. Gene then welcomes in, and this is funny, it's like a parade of guys. Like they just kind of come and go, which is a cool way to do it. Gene talks to Ronnie Garvin, who's in a tux, says he has a special task tonight, but won't divulge, and then scampers off. Then Gene welcomes in Bobby Heenan and Ravishing Rick Rude, who are manic and insane about what happened. Bobby at his best here, just melting down. Rude says he had the match won, but Piper ruined it when he should have been sitting at home. Rude says he showed his ask Bobby what happened in a great line. Rude says he'll go through Piper and then Warrior to get his gold back. Bobby wants to restart the match right now and stumbles around his words. Gene says it's a veritable zoo in the back. Just an epic meltdown promo here by two of the greats. So a real fun block of promos takes us into Tony and Jesse recapping what has happened. Jesse calls Gene an idiot, which always made me laugh. And then we get an intermission. Coming back from there, we get another very thorough recap video to set up the main event. And that leads us to our next match, the first of the second half of the show, as King Jim Duggan teams up with Demolition to take on the Twin Towers and Andre the Giant. And as great as our first six-man was on paper from a work rate and cohesion and fast-paced point of view, now we get a battle of just fucking hosses that are going to beat the shit out of each other. Just a huge war filled with heavy artillery. And the highlight of the show to me, in a show filled with them, is Andre the fucking Giant coming out to Jive Soul Bro. Just a real delight as they all come out strutting to the ring. The heels at a combined weight of over 1,000 pounds is another awesome kind of hidden bit. Just makes it really weigh the gravity of it for you when that's announced. And then you get Slick and Bobby Heenan just rounding out this tremendous group. I thought Duggan looked cool with the mask. I liked him adopting the Demolition mentality, even though he's got the big fucking purple cape and the crown on. Duggan also has the American flag painted on his face, which of course disgusts Jesse, who basically does the, I didn't fight in a war, so this ugly fucking guy could put the flag on his face. Duggan and Hakeem kick it off. Duggan unloads with the right hands. Axe comes in and does the same. It's a smash, leading to some hard double team strikes. The Faces quick tag and work Hakeem's arm, keeping him off balance. Bossman gets the tag, but Axe is all over him. Smash gets the tag, and Bossman finally turns the tide as the crowd fires up a loud USA chant. The Faces turn back around and work over Bossman until Axe gets trapped in the corner and smacked around. Andre tags in and viciously sits down on Axe's chest and chokes away. Axe dodges an Hakeem charge and tags Smash, who goes wild on the Towers, slams them both in a fantastic spot that brings hysterics to the crowd. And then Andre comes in and he drops Smash with a hard right hand. Hakeem gets two on a clothesline, but things devolve into chaos. Hakeem hits a splash off the middle rope at a cool spot, but Duggan comes in and levels him with a 2x4, and Smash covers for the win. Fun, wild match, never slowed down, and the pace that these guys cut for being six huge dudes was intense, and the crowd was insane. Point bump for the Smash slams to me. Duggan cheats as usual, but it was a great moment. The commentary, again, was super fun, as Jesse is just pissed off about Rude and just bringing it all out on Duggan. So, real fun. Johnny, I went 3 stars on this. Just a super fun match with the 6 big guys beating the crap out of each other and awesome presence.
Yeah, they kept that just the right amount of length, and it was just a little sad to see Andre kind of downgraded. Obviously, physically, all the years in the ring has taken, and his age, with et cetera, has taken his toll. So, Andre's kind of down to very limited. He wasn't in it much, and the crowd are ballistic. Good showcase for Smash with the power moves. And also, my favorite part of the match was Tony giving a little dig to Jesse when Jesse was flipping out when Duggan cheated with the 2x4, and then Tony says, "Well, Jesse, you always say if the ref doesn't see it, Tony to give it right back." Tremendous.
It's funny. This was one of those matches that I used to not be a huge fan of because we always used to say that this was. I still loved it anyway, but it was always like a tale of two halves of the card. But now that we've gotten older and watched it multiple times, I'm even finding good things about these matches. And I used to think, my God, this match was a slog. It's not. It was great to watch it again. Demolition kind of, it was a good kind of distraction from them obviously wanting the tag belts back from the Brainbusters, but a good distraction while the Brainbusters were doing something else to give these guys this match. Obviously these two were facing each other throughout the, late spring into early summer, the Brainbusters and the Towers. I have to admit, I did like Duggan in the face paint. It kind of fit. The cheating pissed me off only because I'm tired of the commentary made it so like he can do it and nobody else can kind of thing. And but having said that, I agree that all 6 guys are just fucking hosses. Never argue with having a ton of hosses in a match. But this was the first time. Even him and Jake at WrestleMania 5 wasn't that bad to watch, but John's right. This is the first time you really see that Andre really doesn't have much left in the tank, and it breaks your heart because he's the man, he's the boss. But John's exactly right. It was very hard to watch him do practically nothing in this match. It was sad, and it gets worse as we move ahead. He gets but he does get a nice career spike later in the year, which we'll get to. But he did not look good in this match at all, and it's sad. Having said that, Akeem is a fucking MVP. Let me tell you.
that splash off the middle rope was nice.
It was great.
Somebody didn't get the win with it.
It was great. Yeah, fun match. 3 stars for me. Your match time was, I think it was 10 something. I think. Let me see. Oh, 7:23. Seemed like a little long. It felt longer, but 7:23 your match time. Perfect length. A lot of fun. It was good to have the faces go over here because the heels went over in the other 6-man. So good to balance it out.
Yep.
But a match that I have enjoyed more now as I've gotten older than I used to. Just because the Haas's they really did bring the juice. Fun match, but a proper team winning. But that Akeem splash was pretty badass. Did he do that a lot? Did that just come out of nowhere? Did I miss something? He didn't do that a lot on. Did he do it like in squashes, like on Superstars and stuff? I don't remember him doing the second rope splash a lot. I don't know if he pulled it out for this match but it looked great.
Yeah, I mean, he probably used it at some point, but it did look really good. I was actually surprised when he hit it. Like, I didn't remember him actually hitting the move, so it was kind of cool. Yeah. All right, Mean Gene's backstage talking to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who brags on himself as always, taking shots at Jimmy Snuka, really bringing out the 89 here, calls him a primitive native who eats coconuts and bananas. He then shits on Jake the Snake as well, calling him a sorry statistic after he put him out of action with the $1 Million Dream. Howard Finkel then brings out our big surprise as rugged Ronnie Garvin will be the special guest ring announcer for our next match, and that is the Mighty Hercules taking on Greg the Hammer Valentine.
This individual who can't take for himself, and when he goes to his wimpy manager for advice, little Jimmy can't give him any. He is the only wrestler I've ever seen with 2 left feet.
Well, he's talking
Wears
a
a robe with cheap rhinestone.
Oh, boy, he's really
can't tell if he's coming or going.
Listen to this.
Made the biggest mistake of his life when he asked for me to be reinstated. Greg the Hammer Valentine.
You know, it's funny, Scott, because for years, I feel like we kind of mocked that. And it's actually not as bad as I remembered it being.
No,
like,
it wasn't actually.
I was waiting for it. I'm like, oh, because we used to really rip it. And then I'm listening for it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, he kind of nails it. The only thing he stumbled over was the 20 pounds overweight or whatever he said.
Yeah. Overweight by 30 pounds.
Yeah, beyond that, though, he did a pretty good job.
No, it wasn't bad, actually, yeah.
Yeah, no, Garvin's been good, and he's amazing. Just only he can do the way he did it. Hammer comes in to go with Garvin, but Hercules cuts him off in the loads, grabbing a quick near fall. Jesse's just all full of piss and vinegar over the rude stuff still. Just rants on Garvin. Hammer bails out after Herc mauls him more. Hammer tries to go with Garvin, but Herc decks him. Hammer catches Herc with a shot coming back in and gets to work. Hammer goes up top, but Herc catches him with a punch. Herc drops him on his head and gets decked, but blocks a suplex and gets one of his own. Herc punches away in the corner, but Hammer trips him up, cradles, and puts his feet on the ropes for the win. Garvin announces Hercules is the winner a few times, despite the ref keep correcting him. And then Hammer gets pissed and just attacks Garvin. Hercules makes a save, then Garvin comes in and lands a great punch to knock Valentine out to get a big pop as well. I thought the post-match was fun. Just nothing going on here from a match perspective. It's all strikes. It really just exists for the Garvin storyline to keep going. And I thought the Garvin part was the best piece of all this. And it's been a really good feud. Garvin's been great since his arrival. He was kind of a punchline for us, Scott, the first time we went through these shows. But again, a guy like maybe Hercules and others that we've really come around on. So I went 1.5 stars, really all carried by the Garvin stuff. And I like the end too, where he keeps us announcing Herc is the winner, pissing off Hammer even more. It was good tweaking. So funny stuff here. What'd you think of the match?
I gave it, obviously the match itself is pretty horrendous. I gave it 1 star. But the match wasn't the point. Your match time 2:53, so that's fine. The match was here just to have Garvin do that pretty epically. I can't even say awful anymore. Just epically mumbled ring announcing, which was great. He got 2 left feet. I love hearing guys with French Canadian accents try to talk. It's tremendous. It's just to get the Garvin Valentine story over, and in my opinion, the winner, Hercules. Jesse's right. That's the sad part. Is Jesse is literally apoplectic right now, and nobody's listening. It's so great, so great.
He's so mad. The rude stuff just set him off, and he has us on fire the rest of the show.
He literally wants to just throttle Tony right now. It's so great. The match is shit, but that's fine. In this instance, the match is there just to further the storyline with Garvin and Valentine, John. There's really no need to really worry about the match itself. It's more for the Garvin stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you guys, only because I can't think for myself. And, it's one of those. It's so horrible. It's good because of his accent with the rhymestone.
Cheap rhinestones.
Rhymestone like Buster Rhymes.
Rhinestones.
Oh God. But I have a criticism. This really makes Hercules look real shitty. He didn't do anything, and especially at the end where like both of them are like twice the size of the Hammer, and it took both of them to give Hammer a beatdown. It's a bad look for two faces beating up heel especially when they're both so much bigger than a Hammer. So it was just it was all about Garvin, but in the process it really made Hercules look shitty, and you can see that they really don't have his babyface run is pretty much a DOA at this time.
That is true. Yeah, if there's anything bad here, it's probably Hercules, because he just seemed like collateral damage. Good point.
All right. Chugging along, Mean Gene is backstage with Randy Savage, ZEUS, and Sensational Scary in a cauldron. Crazy stuff here, but lots of fun. Sherry talks about seeing Beefcake, Hogan, and Liz going down tonight. Savage calls Beefcake the weak link, and Hogan is at the bottom thanks to ZEUS. This will be the end of the road, and we see Sherry. Sherry said, we find out that Savage sees Sherry with Liz, and the possibility is unbelievable as to what could happen. So, pretty wild promo with Savage kind of continues his descent into real madness and insanity along with Sherry. That kind of stems off as he switches direction over the fall. So I think this is kind of the bottoming out of like him kind of being like presented as this insane nut, and Sherry is like a sorcerer. So kind of started after Mania and peters out after this. But it was a good way, I guess, to show that he's gone insane from everything. So that brings us to our filler match before the main event, and that is Superfly Jimmy Snuka taking on the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Ted is aimless, as Jake Roberts has laid out. They keep pushing that narrative, though, to fill the gap. Snuka gets a good pop and has returned to the metro area. Snuka comes in and catches Ted as he tries to attack, clearing him to the floor. Virgil tries to help, but eats a Ted knee lift instead. Snuka sends Ted right back out with an atomic drop, and then he's all over Ted when he comes back in. As Jesse talks about Snuka's hard head, calling him a Neanderthal. Ted has got no offense here, but finally lands a punch to the gut as he baits in the Superfly. Snuka charges, but Ted catches him and hits a hot shot to finally take over. Ted gets to work, but ends up missing an elbow. Snuka's back on top with strikes and headbutts. Snuka slams Ted and pelts him with a headbutt off the middle rope, but doesn't cover. Snuka goes up top for the kill, but Virgil hops on the apron and baits him down. Snuka stalks Virgil at ringside as Jesse keeps calling Snuka an animal that wrestles on instinct. Ted nails Snuka on the floor and then runs him to the post and rolls inside to pick up the count-out win. Snuka then attacks both men, hits an awesome Superfly splash on Virgil as Jesse just shits all over him for being a sore loser. Fine match. Ted and Virgil outwit Snuka. And I will say DiBiase, though, still lacking that big marquee pay-per-view match. And it's mainly because he gets stuck in these meandering bouts. Like, he's never going to have a marquee match with Brutus Beefcake in 1989. He's not going to have one with 1989 Jimmy Snuka. Like, he's not really getting the options outside of Randy Savage or WrestleMania 4 to really go out there and deliver a great singles bout. But considering the slot and no build, it's good enough. John, I went 2 stars on this one in Snuka's big pay-per-view return. They really present him as an idiot, though, and Jesse's not helping that whole thing. And DiBiase outwitting him neither. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, whatever Jake's issues really hurt, because they were building a nice hot feud between him and Jake, and his issues kind of shit-canned that, so leaving Ted in a rough spot. And Superfly, the crowd went crazy for the for the big splash, of course, his signature move. But as far as the match itself, not so much. It was kind of quiet, and Snuka didn't quite have the magic that he had in the early '80s. And this is a rough spot in the card, back to back after the Garvin shit show, and this is 2 coolers before your main event. Real rough. I would only go about 1.5 stars for this.
I gave this 2 stars. Your time, a little longer than I remember it being. 6:27.
Okay. Yeah.
6:27. 3:08. Yeah, 6:27. It was okay. It was all right. I mean, Snuka's nothing, again, as I said at WrestleMania 5, Snuka was my first favorite wrestler when I was a kid. When I first started watching. But this was 83 Snuka, who was #1 contender attacking Morocco and stuff. It's very different than the Snuka we're seeing now. Yeah, it's unfortunate that on the big stages, DiBiase just never got the right hand dealt to him. And he always got handed like all these fucking reprobates and head cases. And obviously, at this point, we don't know what the hell the deal is with Jake after the whole, still in the pokey or whatever was going on with the whole arrest in Florida and all that stuff. So who knew what was going on here? I don't even Jake was even mentioned on this show, except by DiBiase, barely, I think. So that's kind of unfortunate there. But, it was a perfect slot on the card because we were about to, embark on the main event, which is just loads of energy and tension. And we needed that. We needed the palate cleansed before we got to that. So it was a perfect spot on the card for it. First of all, I don't know how DiBiase couldn't even win this match clean. Was this a Snuka thing? Did Snuka played like a Legends Power play or something? How the fuck does he not? How the fuck does DiBiase
they probably
not win
wanted
this match
to
clean?
they probably just still wanted to protect him a bit. He just came back. I mean, they weren't like burying him yet or anything. He had,
No, I guess so.
So whatever. I think it's fine. I mean, they clearly played it up that DiBiase just outwitted him. It's not like he lucked out by winning, but kind of he throws him in the post and just rolls in coolly. So I think it was like they played it like DiBiase won that way because he wanted to win that way, not luck into it. So it didn't bother me.
I did like Snuka's black and white tights though, because that kind of goes back to his heelish days. I kind of dug those. So.
All right.
Not much more to see here. So.
Sean Mooney is up in the Bob Uecker seats with some fired up fans, and then that takes us to the amazing promo you heard that kicked off this show as Mean Gene is with Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake. They talk about riding their Harleys. Beefcake's talk about his blades and how he's going to make them part of Randy Savage. We talk about Liz's curvaceous legs sitting on Hulk's lap with her big headlight shining. It's just amazing classic. Tons of classic promos on the show, and this is one of them. They'll destroy all 3 tonight. Just vintage classic Hogan. And again, that was the promo that you heard at the top of the show. So go back and relive it if you want, but it's so good. Genius comes out to recite a special poem, and of all the great Tony stuff tonight, he cracked me up when he realizes what's about to happen. And so now with a special poem, the Genius. Oh no! Like he didn't realize it for a minute, and then it hits him what's about to happen, and he just seems so dejected that he has to listen to the fucking Genius. Jesse's super excited, and Genius continuing his heel turn backs Randy Savage and ZEUS in the main event. And that does set us up for our last match of the night, Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake taking on the Macho Man Randy Savage and ZEUS. Huge match here, and we kind of continue the SummerSlam tag team main event tradition over the last 2 years. It's been swirling all year. Beefcake's been elevated to a main eventer. Great entrance for the heels as the heat just bathes them as they march out. Jesse says Tony's frothing at the mouth over Sherry. Beefcake comes out first, feels like a huge star here in his big, bright white outfit. The crowd's all over him. Hogan gets a monster pop, and the crowd has not lost a step since the opener. They have been here the whole night. A wild scene, a big match feel. Jesse calls Liz a tramp and gloats about her not showing up. But, of course, she does get her own entrance, as she does come out at the end in a cool moment. Jesse just craps all over as Savage is flipping out as she shows up. Jesse calls Liz a hash slinger from down the street in Jersey. Hogan and ZEUS start us off with he hates her, my God. Hogan and ZEUS start us off which I thought was a cool idea right out of the gate. ZEUS just mauls Hogan, and he can't do anything to him. ZEUS locks in a bear hug on Beefcake and then swats Hogan around with ease. ZEUS gets the bear hug on Hogan and tags in Savage, who works the back. Savage had awesome silver tights and boots on. Continuing the great trend of tights tonight. Savage hits an axe off the top. He drives Hogan to the corner with a knee for 2. Savage grabs a sleeper on Hogan, but Hogan hulks up and hits some shoulder blocks until ZEUS clobbers him when he gets near the ropes. ZEUS comes in and he and Savage land some shots, and I love the trick here that they pull where Savage is calling spots for ZEUS, but he's kind of doing it under the guise of giving me advice. He's pointing and looking around all maniacally, but really obviously telling Mr. Lister exactly what to do. But I thought the way they did it was a nice cover. ZEUS goes back to the bear hug, holding it there for a while. Jesse says if Savage wins, the tramp will go crawling back to him. Hogan tries to punch free, but ZEUS just runs into the buckles. Savage is back in and taunts and spits at Beefcake and hits a nice back suplex for 2. Hogan finally dodges a charge and tags Beefcake, who runs through Savage and hits a high knee for 2. Beefcake gets the sleeper. Savage starts to fade, but desperately launches forward and slings Beefcake into the top turnbuckle. ZEUS comes in, and Beefcake goes to the eyes, jumps on his back with a sleeper, but Savage comes in and breaks it by slamming Beefcake with the purse. Savage baits Hogan over and keeps working over Beefcake. Savage's manic energy is so fucking good right now. Hogan saves Beefcake a few times, pissing off Jesse. ZEUS comes in and chokes and clobbers away. He smirks at Hogan in a great moment. Savage batters Beefcake, but we end with a double clothesline to wipe both men out. Beefcake crawls over and gets the hot tag, and Hogan runs through Savage, smacks ZEUS on the apron. In a great moment there, he kind of caught ZEUS napping on the apron. Hogan hits the boot, but Savage falls outside. Hogan suplexes him back in, but Sherry trips him, and Savage falls on top for a good near fall. Savage is a picture-perfect big elbow, but Hogan blows out of it and no-sells it as the crowd goes nuts. Hogan chucks Savage outside. ZEUS comes in, who had gotten tagged before the elbow. Hogan hammers away, hits some clotheslines, and rattles ZEUS, who finally falls to a knee. Tony and the crowd are going nuts, and Liz dumps Sherry in the ring. Savage comes in with the purse. Beefcake shoves Savage off the top rope. Hogan grabs the purse and decks ZEUS with it. Hogan then slams ZEUS and drops the leg for the win with a manic finish. Tony is amazing here. He's flipping out. Hogan corners Sherry and hits an atomic drop. Liz decks her with the purse to a pop, and then Beefcake cuts off her braid. Liz, Beefcake, and Hogan celebrate as Jesse stews, and we go off the air. Great payoff and revenge here, right down to the haircut on Sherry. She's been fucking with all of them. Super hot match. The crowd is rabid. Big moments in commentary. Had everything you'd want in a match like this. The big stars going at it. Wildly executed finish, but it was perfectly executed. It goes also ends Savage's long-standing run at top, really for all intents and purposes. He bumps up here and there, but for over the next year, he's pretty much shuttered down the card. ZEUS remains around, but Hogan has really taken him down in a big spot. And great finish to an unreal show. Just a real strong main event. They didn't fall off at all, which I thought was a good touch to stay strong after what, could have been a hot early portion and then a rough main event. It had possibility there, but I'll tell you, they all showed up and really closed the show out well. So I went 3.5 on this, Scott. What'd you think of the main event?
I also gave this 3.5. I wanted to give it a 4, but I don't think it quite, in terms of the match itself, quite reached a 4. Your final time, what was that, about 13, I guess? 15:04. I believe that was the second. Was that the second longest match of the night? It was the third longest match of the night. Oh, the opener was actually longer than Warrior Rude. Busters and Hearts were 16:23. That was 16:02. So the main event, 15:04. The storytelling, this is all storytelling. I mean, the work rate was fine. Savage's Silver White was fucking great. This was all storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
The culmination of a great story. You can almost argue this was the epilogue of the Mega Powers story. Like the final chapter was WrestleMania. This is the epilogue.
Mm-hmm.
I know they have one more big thing, which we'll get to at the end of the year, but like you said, for all intents and purposes, this is it.
And it had the potential too to fall apart. You got ZEUS in there.
Oh, it absolutely did.
Who's done not much. You got Beefcake, who really hasn't proven it. And we saw the Great Science main event match, but he hasn't really had this spot yet. So like the potential was there for this thing to be a mess, and they didn't let those obstacles get in their way.
No, absolutely not. They found a way to work around it. I mean, honestly, and you could tell that Savage was kind of walking, the infamous always whispering in his ear, kind of walking him through what the fuck to do. But that's all ZEUS had to be was a wrecking machine. He didn't have to do work rate. He didn't have to, do anything, just slams and punches and shit. That's all he had to do. And they did a good job of protecting that. This one, I mean, this crowd is just out of their minds. I mean, it's the main event, obviously, so they're going to be out of their minds. But this is just chaos 101. What a fun match. And Elizabeth gets this crazy pop. And I loved Jesse in the beginning. Their manager didn't show. And then, of course, she comes out. What a story. And the loaded purse. And it's just so great. It was just so great. And what a way to end a great night of wrestling. A great main event. Fun tag. We would later on in time would get frustrated with main event tag because we wanted more title matches. But this was perfect. And what a way to end the show. Crowd goes home happy. My God, the place is nuts. Hogan is firmly entrenched as the top dog again. Beefcake gets a good rub here. We'll see what he uses with it. But yeah, you could definitely tell Savage this was like his last vestige for a couple of years. I don't know what becomes of ZEUS after this, because he obviously had to eat the pin. I wonder if they regret that down the line. We'll talk about that, JR, as we move ahead. If he regrets making ZEUS eat the pin and not Savage.
It was nice of them to actually protect Savage. I mean, Hogan blows out of the elbow, but at least they didn't pin him. It would have been the easiest way to pin him here. You know what I mean? Like it was right in front of them, and they saved him, so that was cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like Hogan beat him clean. He had to whack him with the purse, so it's not like ZEUS was actually almost mildly protected because he had to be cheated by to get pinned. But John, what a main event! Maybe I mean, you could argue during the Federation era, for that 8-year stretch, 85 to 93, this is arguably one of the best main events of the era.
Yeah, I was surprised that ZEUS took the pin. I was expecting that Macho would get it, but they did a good job of recognizing that ZEUS was as green as hell, and just set him up for the 3 or 4 big spots, and don't overload him too much. And they were lucky that the crowd was very generous. We can't say enough about him. Because the spot where Hulk first knocked ZEUS down, he was very light. Hulk was very careful not to, because ZEUS was so inexperienced. He gave him punches that were weaker than usual, and also a kind of a soft clothesline to knock him down. But they got the job done, and the big thing was Liz getting physical for like one of the first times. That's when the crowd went ballistic for when Liz finally. Got her comeuppance and started getting dirty with Sherry, and the best was Jesse was so exasperated at the end when after Sherry got a braid cut and Liz knocked it down. Tony was going on about Liz, going, "What a woman!" And then Jesse's like, "What do you want, a date, Schiavone?" He was just so exasperated, but yeah, terrific ending.
He's gonna go! He picked him up! He picked up ZEUS! There it is! Yes!
Caps off Tony's great night.
Oh, what an ending. What an ending.
All right, there you have it. SummerSlam 1989 in the books. Before we get to our awards, guys, we do have some feedback that we had reached out to members of Place to Be Nation for, and we got quite a bit, so I'm going to read through that now, and then we'll wrap things up with our awards. Our buddy Rory McNamara of the Wrestling 20 Years Ago podcast. My Chicken Soup for the Soul pay-per-view. From top to bottom, does everything you could possibly want it to. Even the lesser matches have plenty of charm. Add a great atmosphere, 3 matches flirting around 4 stars, and the Jesse line, and you have yourself an instant pick-me-up. Stephen Ferrari wants to know where we stand on shooting someone outside of the ring, because it didn't happen in the boundaries of Squared Circle. Pre-WCW, Jesse and Tony is a fun combo. Adam Lees says it's the best intro music to any pay-per-view ever. Jeffrey Thomas, better main event tag team feud of summer of '89. This one or NWA's Sting and Flair versus Funk and Muda? What do you guys think?
Oh, that's not fair. Oh, both those main events are awesome in their own special way. It's amazing how laterally you've got 2 main event feuds involving 4 main event guys in tags. That's funny how both companies kind of went in that direction.
John,
I gotta go with this one though.
Well, this was more of a spectacle. Obviously, the wrestling was better with with Funk and Muda, but this was more of as far as the spectacle in the crowd. There was more of a moment here.
All right. Patrick Michael Jr., the first pay-per-view my parents let me buy. I was 9 at the time. I was worried ZEUS would legit murder Hogan. I still remember Science Main Event vividly with ZEUS no selling those chair shots. Our buddy Peter Fusco. After WrestleMania 3, this might be the highest quality show of the expansion era. Some more filler than 3 and nothing quite as high-end as Savage Steamboat, but maybe a more consistent card. Darren Richard Healy. I love the Howard Foundation Brainbusters opener. Rude Warrior is my first VHS I bought with my birthday money back in 92. Jamal Ortiz, peak of WWF 1999 storylines, went downhill after this. Brian Scala, my first time attending a pay-per-view event the Pop Warrior receives after beating Rude was unreal. No doubt Vince heard it and decided then and there he'd be the heir apparent. Also, it was one of the few times Hogan hit his finisher with his back to the hard camera. Pretty interesting note there.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Price, one of my favorite shows to pop in and watch, from the opening Hearts Busters match that honestly starts out by turning tag team wrestling on its head with such a long babyface opening sequence to the Rude Warrior rematch was a much more concise version of their first match at WrestleMania, capping it off with a fun main event. A great, great show, plus having Schiavone in the booth helps give the show a refreshing feeling, even though I love Gorilla and Jesse. Ryan Everett bought this for $4 at Video Village Summer Sale, so I probably watched this on Survivor Series 88 more than any other pay-per-view growing up. The opener is great and so different from WWF matches from the era, as the Busters dictate an NWA tag match and the Hearts easily a lot into it. Dusty and Honky have a match. Kurt Hennig wins the Battle of Mr. Perfects. The sixth man is my match of the night. A non-stop fight, although I'm confused by the Rougeaus and Martel getting the win as they were busy jobbing to the absent Bushwhackers at WrestleMania. Warrior Rude is the first match I watched as an 8 or 9-year-old, and I knew it was a great match. I knew Warrior had won because I had seen Survivor Series 89 beforehand, but was biting on every Rude close fall. Rude's powerbomb piledriver is nasty looking, and the first big-time match I remember watching that ends without a finisher. I always loved the promo parade at halftime, especially Roddy's. The second six-man certainly wasn't as fast-paced, but I always liked it as well, especially Smash slamming the towers. Valentine Hercules only notable because Hammer has 2 left feet. Really wish DiBiase would have fought Blue Blazer if he's just going to fight a jobber to the start. Anyway, that's a great point. We didn't mention that. That would have been a much cooler match, but I get why they wanted Snuka on pay-per-view. Main event's pretty good, especially watching Macho bump for 3 and Sherry bumping for at least for 2. It's a shame Sherry had that lovely weave that she apparently bought the week of cut off right away. Overall, 2019 eyes, this is a front-loaded show with a fun main event. But 1996, Ryan says this is an all-time top 5 pay-per-view, and the only other pay-per-views I bought and see multiple points at this point were WrestleMania 8, 9, and 11, Survivor Series 92, and the first In Your House. Kevin Patak, ZEUS is awesome, that is all. Jay Hinchy, I rented this years ago on VHS and finally saw it again when the network launched. Definitely holds up pretty well overall. Never understood why the Busters and Hearts wasn't a title match, but still one of the best SummerSlam openers. Arguably the best Warrior match of his career with Rick Rude. And did Piper Rude ever have a proper singles match? We'll see. Also, a pair of fun 6-man tags. I do laugh at Ronnie Garvin trashing the Hammer. ZEUS is in the main event, almost leading to him and Hogan headlining WrestleMania 6. Thank God that didn't happen. Brian Meyer, unapologetically a mark for ZEUS and the saga. This is a handful of SummerSlams for best ever consideration. David Joseph Mann, one of the best overall shows from that era. The opener, Tito Rocker's Martel Rougeau 6-man, the IC in the main event are really good. Throw in all the classic Federation era characters and Tony Schiavone on commentary, a classic rewatchable show. Nicolaj Tarp, pure nostalgia trip here. Opener, the first 6-man and the IC title matches are great. Plenty of filler. There's just something about the show that makes it tremendously rewatchable. 89 was a great summer, not just for movies, but for slams as well. Personal high for me is Jesse mockingly asking Schiavone if it's okay to shoot someone outside the ring. Gotta love this show. And finally, Peter Winson just quotes Jesse Ventura. What are you saying, Schiavone? You can shoot a guy outside the ring as long as he's outside the ring. You're even stupider than Monsoon. And I thought Gorilla was the dumbest man alive. Thank you for everyone who contributed feedback. We love it as always.
Yes.
We'll, come shopping around Survivor Series time for your takes. All right, why don't we get to our awards here, guys? My match of the night, starting it off, would be Ultimate Warrior versus Ravishing Rick Rude.
No doubt.
Concur.
All right, very good. Fucking thing. All right, Warrior versus Rude. The cousin junior of the night. Not a lot of competition on this evening. I went Hammer Hercules for the actual match itself, even though I really did enjoy the Garvin stuff. It was just the worst match on the card.
Yeah, no, it was. It was.
Yeah.
Shockingly enough, second straight show, poor Hammer got the worst match of the night. But all right, next up, the Andre the Giant Award for the MVP. A lot of choices on this one. You got Warrior, you got Rude, Hogan, Savage, Rockers, everyone. But I went with the 2 men that consistently carried the show from start to finish. They were present in every match, 100%. Iconic lines, iconic barbs, and just really, really carried the action. And that's the duel, Jesse Ventura and Tony Schiavone, for me, get this award. We went the commentators at WrestleMania, and I'm doing it again here at SummerSlam. I thought they were so, so good, on point the whole time, and just really made this card. And it's a great card on its own. You wonder if it takes a hit in any way if these 2 guys aren't calling it. So to me, they were the standouts of the night.
I got to go Macho for carrying Zeus through the main event. That you got a good point there. Yeah, I'd love to go Jesse and Tony again, but just I got to go Macho for carrying Zeus.
It's a good choice, John. I'm actually I agree with you, JR. I'm gonna go with the only reason is there's just so many guys on the show that it's hard to pick out. I'm great choice by John. Very hard to pick a standout guy here. So I'm gonna go with the two guys that helped tell us the story all night. Yeah, no doubt. Jesse and Tony. Wow, what a portrait they painted all night long.
All right, the Sandy Beach Award for the worst work of the night. I felt bad doing this because I thought he did okay, but it's very clearly Zeus. Again, he played his role, he did his best, but it's a tough card. There's a lot of great workers, and no one really sucked. I mean, if you want to say Hercules, I guess, but I think even that's pushing it. I think Zeus is clearly the worst worker on the card.
I'm going Hercules.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I'm not going to do it, but I think it's funny. You can't really blame worst worker when a guy is getting older or just getting aged or not doing well physically. So you can't really blame them, but I'm not giving it to him, but you almost got to give a vote to Andre only because he's just got nothing. It's just hard for him, but it's not because he sucks. It's because he's in fucking pain. But I'm going to give it to, I got to give it to Zeus only because you're right. There's really nobody else to give it to. I mean, Herc was pretty terrible, but Zeus, Johnny kind of validated it with having Savage as his MVP that Zeus needed to have his hand held, but he's not a wrestler either. But unfortunately, there's just too many good guys in this card to give it to. So.
All right, best moment. On most cards, I might have gone Smash slamming the Twin Towers because that was an awesome moment. And the crowd went nuts. But I went with Warrior winning the title. Just the chaos. Jesse's just slowly resigning about what's about to happen. Rude, everything coming crashing down, and the pop for Warrior. I thought that was my favorite top moment of the night.
Yeah, me too. Slightly edging when Liz whomped Sherry with the purse. But
yeah, that was good too.
A close second, but you got to go Warrior.
That hash slinger from Jersey.
Yeah, I Warrior winning. But I mean, the moment when Hogan bonks Zeus with the purse was. I mean, you could tell the crowd was ready to just see it. They were just ready to just fall out of their seats for that one when he whacked him with the purse. But yeah, Warrior pinning Rude. The place just went fucking insane. You got to put it.
All right, the Morocco Award. I went with Warrior again here. I thought he was the most juiced up in the night.
Warrior.
Yeah, I would give it to Zeus.
Okay.
But yeah, Warrior. No, I'm gonna give it to Warrior. But Zeus, I think Zeus deserves a. No, Warrior definitely is. But Zeus definitely deserves a vote or two. Hogan looked very bloated tonight, but and Savage always looks pretty cut. But I'm gonna give it to Warrior because you can't not. I think you gotta give it to Zeus too.
The bigger question is, are we getting close to renaming this thing after the Warrior? Let's see.
The Warrior Award. Yep.
Let's see. So Warrior, he's had at least a share of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. That's going to be more than Morocco. I'm calling it for Warrior, and he's only going to win a few more, I'm sure. All right, the Warrior Award means more than the WWE's Warrior Award. I'll tell you that much.
That's right. Yes.
Wow.
All right, the Ken Patera Award for the worst hair. Our usual poster child at this point, the Red Rooster, was my choice.
Yeah, it was terrible. Honky's wasn't that great either, but Honky's sideburns looked particularly thick on this evening.
I'm going for a surprise one. It's Mr. Tito with your big curly, mullety, poofy, whatever you want to call it. Mr. Tito, your hair stinks and you stink. You're a loser. Yeah, definitely.
Your takes on WWE stink, Mr. Tito.
All
right. It was late 80s. The mullet was fading out.
Time for our overall grade here tonight. And back in Mania 5, we were right in the middle. And it's funny reading the feedback because a lot of it kind of flowed with my thoughts back in the day, right? Some slow spots, you have the hot matches, but then some chum around the card. But you know what? That stuff isn't as bad as you think, and it doesn't really slow the show down. The lower end stuff, Dusty, you'd say Dusty Honky, still real fun. Dusty's red hot, and it's quick. Hercules Valentine sucked in the ring, but pretty fun for the Garvin stuff. DiBiase Snuka, proficient. Nothing really sucked, and the rest is excellent. It's really not like there's no slow spots like you may think. It's not a slow back end of the card. Like a lot of those prevailing thoughts that we even had, Scott, back in the day, to me have been disproven watching this. And Tony and Jesse are so good that it covers for any slower matches that may have occurred. The promos are on point. There's so many classic promos. We talked about them. So many big moments. The crowd is unbelievable. It's just an iconic show. And it may be the peak. We may slow down from here a little bit, but I'm not going to call it a perfect pay-per-view because it's not. But it's real good, and it's I don't think it's that far behind like WrestleMania 3. I know notoriously I didn't give WrestleMania 3 a 10 out of 10. I gave it a 9.5. John, so did you, and I went just a notch lower. I went 8.5 for this show. I think it's really great. It's a ton of fun, and there's so much good going on. 8.5 for me.
I'm gonna go a 7.5. I don't want to say it was shitty, but kind of the between the Towers, Hercules, and Superfly and DiBiase, like that trio was kind of.
But the Towers match is good though. I like that a lot. It's like I can't. I don't know. I know it seems like that on paper. To me, I can't get by. I can't go in on that because I like that 6-man. I think it's way better than.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like those three, like back to back, kind of bring it down a little bit. So it's 7.5. Scotty,
I have given, as I'm looking at our grades, JR, I have given 3 10s in my in my history now. WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 3, obviously. That goes without question.
And then the main event from February.
The main event I gave a 9. The 88 main event I gave a 9.5. The 89 main event I gave a 10. So now I'm about to add to it. This show has always been a 10 for me, always will be a 10 for me, and always forever will be a 10 for me. Arguably for me, one of my favorite pay-per-views, top to bottom of all time. It's one of those few shows that I could literally watch anytime, anywhere, any place, and never get sick of it. Any of the matches, the commentary, the Mean Gene, fuck it, and all of that. There is nothing wrong with this show, in my opinion, whatsoever. It is a perfect template of the summer show, all the culminating feuds, great matches. What a moment for Warrior. The main event is great. Even the garbage matches have a reason, and it kind of gets hidden by and the garbage matches were short. We'd have to deal with, Hammer and Hercules for 9 minutes. We had to deal with it for 3 minutes. What a perfectly put together show. And Tony and Jesse just do a tremendous job. I always said that we always used to think that this was kind of the shit part of it, and they did better at their next pay-per-view outing. But no, this one is amazing for them. And I find it. For me personally, I find it practically flawless. In storytelling, psychology, the matches, there's nothing wrong with this show.
Yeah, I think
it's a perfect 10.
One of the best things you can say about it is how easy of a watch it is. I mean, it flies by. The other day when I was picking the show up, I think it was maybe at the Demolition match. I'm like, all right, I'll watch another match here and then move on. And before I knew it, I had finished it because it's just so easy. It just chugs along. There's not too much down in there. It's an easy watch, and it's a great show. So. All right, there you have it. That'll finish it for SummerSlam 89. Scott will be back in 2 weeks' time back on our regular schedule with the September 89 Madison Square Garden. So we'll see how things fall now that SummerSlam's over as we start to move toward the end of the year. We'll see how things go. So what do you got going on this week? Anything?
No main event. It's the off week. Mr. D'Amato and I hopefully will be doing a Pop Goes the Movies review of Rocket Man. He saw it over the weekend. I'm hoping to see it tomorrow night. So,
or the Sean Williams version, Cocket Man.
The Prince. So hopefully we'll see that. But next week we will have our next main event. We'll talk about. We'll have our New Japan Classic match picks and et cetera, et cetera. But an off week for main event. Check out this past week's where we talked about. We kind of talked a little takeover, a little Double or Nothing, a little TNA stuff. So, and of course listen to Year and Pop.
How about you, John Ivan?
hopefully what Scott says, and we get that together, and me and Raj will check back in and have a review of the finals when it finally ends. It might not be for a couple weeks. So.
All right.
We'll see.
All right, rumors are wafting that the Wrestling Warzone will return this week as well. We're looking at the January 8th, 96 Raw and Nitro. So keep an eye out for that on this very feed. All right, that'll do it. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Everyone, take care. Hopefully you enjoyed the show as much as we did, and have a great couple weeks. Talk to you soon.
Prince Pretty.
I know a couple of Prince Petties.
And Prince Pudgy.